and gentlemen, welcome to the King's Clash 3. I am your host, the King of Canada, and joining me are two very special gentlemen calling the action here today,
Hello.
Mr. Parry Manilow and ItsGuestGaming. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us here at the Clash. It is going to be one
For
heck
sure.
of a day.
Thank you for having us, King. It's been an honor to get to know you and to be a part of this wonderful event. Got a lot of exciting matches on a very fresh meta. So hopefully we will start to see what cards and what lists will come out of these crazy changes that have happened this week.
Yeah, there's a lot happening.
It was funny because we set things up. Yeah, we set things up to have no Arishem, and then as of, 2 days ago, Arishem basically got blown out of the water, so it didn't really matter.
We'll have to see.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
So it'll be a fun day. We have a grand championship total of $50 for our winner, $25 for the second place, and it's going to be a fun day. We're going to see some great decks. I'm interested to see what people cooked up when they were told they couldn't play Arishem.
I am too. I feel like Arishem, even though now he's kind of been subsided a bit over the last week or so between the combination of the recent patches and OTAs, and now also the emergence of Cassandra Nova as being a very strong powerhouse counterplay, I'm happy to say that no matter what, even if we did decide to allow Arishem in this tournament, it probably wouldn't have the same effect that it did, at least over, the last couple of days. So maybe we find the very next big deck here during this tournament. But what I'm curious to see is, without that Arishem knowledge, what people decide they want to bring on in. So I ask you that question, King, first, then we'll go to Parry second. If you were coming into your own tournament today, what would you possibly bring?
I would bring something of power and something with tech, because you need to have some tech in this day and age. You need to be able to shrink things down or blow things up. You need to be able to take care of things, and you need to have power, because there still is a blob. There still is, even though he only gets to 13, he's still out there. So you got to make sure that you can counter those type of things. Even destroy with null. Null still gets to 25 on most cases, sometimes higher. So you have to be able to counter a null. And it's difficult when you're just playing little itty bitty cards.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely going to be seeing some tech. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of the small movers kind of stuff. The Thena, Kitty, Angela package is still very, very strong. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that. Of course, loaded with tech as well. Your Nocturnes, your Shang-Chi. I think we're going to see a bit more Shadow King too. I think that was one of the more interesting changes from the OTA, is that we now, Luke Cage no longer counters Shadow King in the same way it did. So I think that's going to be a card we see a bit more of. And personally, what I would bring to a tournament right now, we had two recent buffs here. And into my favorite archetype, Discard, we have the Moon Knight change, of course, one of my favorite OTA changes in a long time. The animation is so cool. Getting to see such an awesome card with so many cool variants being relevant and playable is very cool. And of course, our Lord and Savior of Discard, Apocalypse, gains his +2 power back that was so wrongfully taken from him many months ago. So it's good to see the King of Discard back, and I think Discard is actually well positioned right now to be a competitive deck. I'm sure we'll be seeing quite a few Discard lists this tournament.
100%. I've been having a lot of fun with Discard.
Yeah, I love me some Discard, and seeing Apocalypse get his power back, that was a much needed change. I don't know why they took it away from him to begin with, so I'm quite happy that he got his power back.
Yeah.
Discard was definitely one of those always second fiddle decks, so I'm happy to see that. And me personally, just to throw the quick little 2 cents in, I think we're going to start seeing, like, you see a lot of those little movers. I agree with a bounce type of deck is really big right now. I would not be surprised if we saw somebody do some very successful Blink Sandman type of stuff and try to capitalize on the deck changes that are happening a little differently. So that would be what I would probably want to come on in with, but I'm curious what our participants will be using today as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about today's knockout tournament and how this will be going down today, Mr. King of Canada?
All right, so it is a single elimination tournament. You have regular friendly battle matches. We will play them out, and once you get eliminated, you're out of here. You've got 10 cubes to work with, I believe, if I memory serves me right. I haven't played a friendly battle in a while. 10 cubes to work with, and once you've been eliminated, you're out of the tournament. We are looking at possibly doing double elimination for our next tournament, but that takes a lot longer. So we're probably going to be happy with our 32-man single elimination tournament, and the winner gets $50 American dollars.
Clams.
So we have upgraded from our $25 from King's Clash 2, and we want to thank our sponsors, Power On Gaming and Snap Judgments, for their donations to making this tournament work. We are very happy to be able to put this out into the community. Marvel Snap community is one of the best communities I've ever been a part of. So I want to also say thank you to Gollum for sending us a tip of $20 just now here in the tournament. So Gollum, thank you so very much for the donation to the King's Clash. We very much appreciate that. We're just waiting on some gameplay, and we will be kicking things off very, very soon.
Excellent. Going to be a good time. I'm very excited to see what these decks are going to look like in this tournament here, and we'll be getting started with our first match very shortly here.
As we get this underway, I am excited to see what's going to be showcased. King, I know you've got a lot planning on the back end as well, so we're just going to keep everybody up in the loop of how today's broadcast is going to go. We're going to be going back and forth between a couple of different matches throughout the different rounds and showcase them here on stream. As we switch between different ones, we might take a break here and there because, hey, welcome to the world of Twitch. And we'll keep coming back to having conversation here on this screen as well. So we are on a 5-minute delay for competitive integrity 2. So keep an eye, ladies and gentlemen, as we will be interacting with the chat, but it might be on a delay. So we ask for your patience in the process. King, the stage is yours.
Awesome. We are ready and good to go. I believe Void is sharing his screen, so hopefully we can get into some action. And this is round 1 of the King's Clash 3. Very excited to have you both here with me today. It is a beautiful, well, not for me, weather-wise, it's storming. As you can see, I'm kind of choppy, and I believe that's kind of one of the reasons why is the storm going on outside. It's storming and it's 81 degrees. So you would like to think that it would be cooler in a storm, but no, we're still in a heat wave and it's raining. Basically, the rain is hitting the ground and disintegrating as it goes.
Much like those variants, that storm is hot.
Yes, this is very true. Maybe one could even say that it's magical out there. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we don't get thrown into limbo here as we're waiting for this next match to get started.
Yeah, Void, we're going to find out the bracket pair-ups in just a second.
So what would you say is your favorite change from the OTA and the patch here, guest?
Probably Doc Ock, because I think it has potential for the future as we get our matches underway here with Void versus Raggett.
All right.
So we are seeing Void screen.
So he's got Ultron, Jeff, Blue Marvel, and Patriot.
Yep, so Patriot, one of those lists that is usually strong, never really worse than a B tier deck. one of those old reliable decks that happens to be a safe bet when the meta has been thrown into turmoil, as we do see Weapon X, a pretty new location, popping up here and discarding Void's Ultron. So one of his win cons right out of the gate has now been lost. So opting to go here for the double Nebula on the Sinister London, and the opponent going with Rocket. So 2 1/5 Rockets on the board for the opponent, 2 Nebulas for Void.
This very much so speaks to that, seeing Rocket Raccoon make a resurgence over the last couple of weeks speaks to the strength of Bounce coming back. And if I had to make a guess, knowing that Arishem is not on the table, I'd have a safe bet in saying that this is most likely a Bounce variation, which with Mindscape on the board is something to be very weary of.
Is it Bounce, or could it be a secret little C5 list here, guest? I am noticing all 5 power on the board. Maybe, just maybe, it's C5?
Potentially.
Oh, that would be interesting.
Probably not. Bounce is probably correct, though. I think Black
Very
Swan lists
interesting.
are including, I'm sorry, I think Bounce lists are including Black Swan a bit more frequently now. There are a lot of very strong 1-drops that you can get value out of by bouncing them back. So that could be what we're seeing here. We'll have to wait till we see a few more cards.
Storm on the board to
So
help
what
regulate
is
a bit.
the Patriot?
Interesting.
Oh, go ahead, guest.
No, as we see the 2 hit monkeys come on down because they're fearful of that potential Mindscape issue coming to be, I also wouldn't be surprised if we saw a location control hope and prayer, but they took the lead on assuming that Storm was going to maybe take out the Mindscape by playing down Hitmonkey, because we could also see right now a Beast. Now knowing that that's going to be disappearing, I would not be surprised to see Beast come on down, pick up that 9-power Hitmonkey, and get ready to play it one more time on the next turn. So Juggernaut on the board with the Sandman. We're seeing this variation of Patriot control start to become a little bit more popular over the last couple of weeks. King, how have you felt in these variations of Patriot now re-rising in Marvel Snap?
I enjoy a good Patriot deck. He has always been a middle tier deck, and now with the new addition of Sandman and everything, it's interesting to see how he's able to climb a little better. I've seen a lot of people using Patriot Clog, and I thought that was something that was very interesting. So being able to see the Patriot resurge and get a little more love, I'm quite happy with.
Yeah, Patriot, Sandman, the Sandman, of course, rising into popularity from all of those decks like Bounce, like these dump decks that want to play a lot of cards on those final turns. We didn't see the Sandman come down this time, but it's looking pretty strong here for Ragged. A lot of power on the board. No real answers here from Void outside of maybe reaching for a Shang-Chi that could be in the deck potentially with Iron Lad, but I don't think this is going to cut it here. And as we see, Void is going to retreat for 1. Smart move here from Void.
Escape, as we hear,
I like
and
that.
Absolutely taking.
Escape is now going to be my favorite part of this entire. I kind of want him to continually retreat, because I do love, and I'm a big fan of playing the game in multiple different languages and challenging myself, especially as a caster where we're regularly reading gameplay from all over the world. You've got to know your pictures. You've got to know that this is Wakandan Embassy in location number 1 if you don't understand the language. But every now and then you get those awesome SFX that come through the game, and just like Escape, which will now officially become a part of my stream, because that's fantastic. I'm not going to lie.
Love that. Now you got me thinking about what other voice lines. Like, do they do some of the other voice lines in different languages?
Yes, they do.
Myopic
They do.
American brain that did not think of that. Like, what are we gonna hear? Nosotros son Venom.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if
100%.
that's correct.
Those exist. Those do exist. And I know this not just from playing it, but they also do recognize it in the patch notes, as Nico Minoru is going to be getting a destroy element over in that 3rd location, as we have Camp Lehigh in location number 3. And knowing that we've got as much as we do to build in that middle lane, I'm curious if we end up seeing possibly a potential earlier play trying to fill out the center, as Wave might be the next best option at the moment.
Is there ever... Go ahead.
Well, the good part is he still has his Ultron this turnaround. So right now he's got Ultron, he's got Patriot, and he's got Blue Marvel. So he's got quite a good hand.
Yeah, the Camp Lehigh getting the wave there is going to be interesting because will Void opt to go for the Ultron here to fill up mid on turn 4 and then just try and figure it out with a Blue Marvel and Patriot? And that's looking like exactly what Void is going to do here. I don't know if that extra energy is really going to benefit him, though, if he only has 2 more spots to play.
It will, just because of Nebula in particular, because if you've got the Hood over on the left-hand side already at a -1, clogging up 1 space in that lane, if you put down Ultron, then Patriot, then Blue Marvel, remove Ragged's ability from, even if he does fill up the center lane, capitalizing on it, like exactly this, as you watch the white-hot room get filled up, here comes the Ultron to clog up the entire rest of the board on that side. You're going to have Nebula have to be the control element, and at top ability, over in your right-hand lane after the Blue Marvels and after the Patriots also reinforce the drones specifically, that's another 10 power. So it's already a 21 power factored lane. Plus the center is going to be able to go up another 12 power on top of it to shoot up to 20. And in the left, like, this is a really smart call to Ultron on turn 4.
I don't know if I agree with that guess, because now he has 2 cards left to play. He didn't get the extra energy there from the White Hot Room because Ragged filled it up before the Ultron came down. So the benefit of playing the Ultron early wasn't even met. And now Void only has 2 cards, 2 pretty telegraphed cards left to play. So Ragged will know exactly what he needs to do to win this match here and have the extra energy to do so. So I'm not sure if I agree with that decision there, Guest.
Well, let's pan it out and find out.
It all depends really on, if there's a rogue or if there's an enchantress. If not, I do believe that he could have the power to do it.
All right, gets the werewolf down, starts moving him. Easy rocket target. He knew exactly where he was going to play. The hit monkey, and is he going to bounce it all back with the beast? No beast here. Luckily for Void. Priority throne. Ragged knows pretty much exactly what's going to be coming down here, I would think. Will he have the power to overcome it, Guest?
He's looking at the number of cards currently in the hand, specifically trying to figure out how many potential bounce elements are also left to work with. One of them is Kitty Pryde, which means you have at least 3 more activations if you did everything. But looking at the spaces that are left on the board, you have at most 2 more activations of Werewolf by Night being able to move over into Wakandan Embassy and then back over into Camp Lehigh. So 2 more would be able to shoot Werewolf up to 10. That still would be a little precarious, and it looks like Ragged agrees and decides to retreat for 1 cube. Again, you're in the earlier stakes, your low stakes rounds, so retreating for 1, good option, even though you may have had that potential. Good option to capitalize on, knowing Blue Marvel could not be the case. Interesting play out, and we still haven't even seen Sandman make its appearance yet.
Slight correction there, guess. That was 2 cubes for Ragged retreating. We did have a snap.
Oh, it was round 2.
Void.
My apologies. Yes, you're right. You're right.
Yes, we are still not in high stakes, so it is just 1 cube, but we did have a snap earlier, so that's why Ragged is down 2 cubes at the moment. And we also, I was also wrong. The gamble on the Ultron did pay off, so now we have Void up 9 to 8 cubes here as we get into this 3rd round. What are you liking from the deck so far, King?
So now, if he can do the same thing, if he puts down his wave and he can get out, I would maybe even get out the Doom this time instead of the Ultron, because then you have a little wiggle room to play. But right now he doesn't have the Patriot and he doesn't have the Blue Marvel. So he's got to rely on that Iron Lad to hit something good. He's got to rely on that Sandman to stop the massive amount of cards to be laid out for Hitmonkey, because like you said, Guest, Sandman hasn't been put out yet. So Sandman will be a very big surprise on a snap mechanic if he can get it down and kill that Hitmonkey.
One other thing worth noting, that wave last round was from Camp Lehigh, so it doesn't appear that Void is actually running Wave in the deck. At least if he is, we have not seen it yet.
Okay.
White
So
Widow.
we're not going to see
Man,
another
I love this card.
early cheat.
White Widow, one of those cards that was just nerfed recently in the OTA. The Widow's Kiss going from -4 power when the location isn't filled up to -3 now. Do we think that is impactful enough of a change to maybe decrease the play rate of White Widow? Because I don't think so.
I am 100% on board with that. I agree. And I don't think it's going to change the White Widow in any major way from wanting to be played, but it makes it much more feasible, if you will. Much more feasible, if you will.
We see the Beast coming down, picking up that Widow's Kiss, saying, I don't care if you're -3, -4, it's going back to my hand. Asgard is tied with the Beast and Demon on Ragged's side and the Iron Lad and White Widow on Void's side here as we get into turn 5. Will we see the Sandman King?
I just realized I didn't have my lights on. There we go. Now I can actually see some stuff. We have the Sandman down, which is good because now we can actually see it's what it's going to do. Is it going to impact? I would have waited for the Black Swan because then you knew he was. Yeah, there's the Black Swan. But so I think the Sandman's going to do its job and kind of mess up his plays. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a retreat.
Yeah, at this point, especially with the Widow's Kiss down. Yeah, I agree.
Bit of a missed opportunity here for Void to not snap. The Sandman is such a huge counter to Ragged's deck here. You would think he would want to get more than one cube out of this, but there's the 1 cube retreat, and we head into the high stakes now. Yeah,
the pay to play, the pay to view snap tactic is incredibly important here, and for competitive snap in general, your activator big cards are ones that you need to make your opponents pay for, because then they know that this is a restriction style mode that you have to play around at any given point. It's like playing a destroy deck, and are you going to actually get them to snap knowing that this bounce deck is going up against a Killmonger? You have to know your reveal big cards and make them pay, and that right there with Sandman in particular is a huge pay to view moment. That was a missed opportunity for Void, and I hope that our viewers take on these types of little tips and tricks, and this is what we try to showcase here on these types of broadcasts. As Kitty Pryde goes over into the right with a hood, giving us a head start over into the Bifrost.
Yeah, definitely some key tips to learn. Snapping and retreating is such an important part of this game that separates it from so many other TCGs out there. So learning when to snap and what cards you should be snapping on is a huge part of getting those extra cubes to get you those wins. And there we go. There is another voice line in Spanish from Storm as she storms the right location. Bishop, a good card for Racket to have over there, can scale up, but of course the Nebula over there as well. So let's see what Void is going to play out here. Iron Lad or Patriot?
Well, see, with Crimson Cosmos hurts this bounce deck, or if that's what we're calling it, and because they don't have very many high cards to put there into Cosmos. But the Black Swan turning them into zeros will let them fill up that middle location.
Yep, Black Swan will. You see Black Swan being played on 4 here, potentially in counter to the Sandman that Ragged knows Void has now. So all those ones are going to come out this turn. I wouldn't be surprised we see the Hit Monkey here as well. It's just going to be interesting to see what Ragged is able to do on that final turn, only being able to play 1 card.
Yeah, I don't expect a Falcon making any kind of appearance just because they're already trying to keep that lead with the Rocket, even though you have that Sandman as a potential option. I'm looking at this final line for Void and trying to figure out if there's some feasibility within it, knowing that Nebula is going to go up at least 4 more to 18, but Bishop is also going to decline simultaneously. I don't necessarily see how this is going to favor Void right now for 2 cubes. It really, I think, is just going to be about if Hitmonkey comes down into the Bifrost. If it does, advantage goes to Ragged. If it doesn't, I think advantage stays with Void.
The Bishop's going to go up quite a bit here as we see 5 cards coming down. The Falcon does come out, so
wow.
Interesting decision there to play the Falcon. The Hit Monkey is going to be pretty juicy there at 11 power. Of course, now we are seeing those 1-drops in the middle lane because of the Black Swan, and there is the Titania to finish it off. Interesting play there from Raggett. I don't know if I would have gone with the Falcon there, Guest.
Yeah, that was a surprise move. I know Bishop's going to scale quite a bit, but I guess we're assuming that they'd have the option of using the Rocket Raccoon in conjunction with X, Y, and Z over on the left, knowing that they feel confident in the flooded on the right. With Titania also on the board, this is a little dangerous for Void, where he can't necessarily fire off the Dr. Doom the way that he might want to. Titania is going to fly back most likely with only a single card. So even if they tried to get cheeky with an Orca play and just have the 11 power come on down, I don't think Dr. Doom is going to be enough, because you've got the Bishop coming in, which would be a total of, I think, 14 when all is said and done.
So yeah, the right lane is going to do it here with the Patriot Doombot. But the Titania going over to the other side loses it for Void.
The Cull Obsidian surprise play right there. I don't think we've seen the Cull Obsidian quite yet in this matchup. And that right there was, yeah, as we could see from the emote reaction too, what a surprise mode. They weren't expecting them to play over in Crimson Cosmos in the center. They were expecting them to play over in the left, which is why they went with the Dr. Doom to be able to try to force that Titania back a second time. Surprise move there with the Cull, and is able to secure an extra little piece here. I apologize as well. We're trying to get in a slightly better stream quality over from the Void, trying to get the reception a little stronger. So bear with us as we have a little bit of a pixelation here, as we're going to switch on over to the full screen for a brief moment. Now, it's interesting with the Cull Obsidian in these types of bounce decks, because I feel like it's not very common. You're normally seeing are things like an Iron Man. You're seeing things like, let's be honest, almost anything else. The Cull Obsidian is a very interesting call. What do you think about that, King?
I think that it's interesting, and being different is what gets you some victories. So that is a good thing. The Cull Obsidian, I didn't see that coming at all. So that was very surprising. But like you said, almost any other card is used in that. But I understand with Cull Obsidian, he's using a whole bunch of ones. So Cull Obsidian does make sense. He has a whole bunch of 1-drops. So Cull Obsidian fits on top of any other 1-drop. That's not
definitely
a bad
surprise
call.
and power here. Unfortunately for Void, though, if he did play Doom in that middle lane, he would have won, because the Titania wouldn't have bounced over. So 100%. Unfortunately lost that 50-50 there.
That's
but we are getting into a 4-cube game here, which could see Void left with 1 cube if we don't see any more snaps. The Storm is already played on the middle location. Raggett's got the Werewolf by Night down. We're going to see some schmoovin going on. And the Werewolf will probably wind up on the right here with that Kunlun extra buff. Yep, sure does. And the Nico also changes the location, so Storm does not matter anymore. All locations are viable here.
Ooh.
Not
yeah, that's always hard to
play.
see when you get your Storm down and it gets taken away from you.
Alioth missing
My
a
favorite
huge
is watching
opportunity
someone
here,
Storm
too.
and Magic.
Yep.
Alioth, yes.
Alioth not being no priority here for Void, so we're not even going to be able to see the early Alioth here because of the Titan. Didn't get that priority. The Werewolf a bit too strong right now for Raggett. So looks like Void is going with a White Widow and a Patriot play here. No Ultron, no Doom in hand. So I don't know if the Patriot is the right play just yet. You got to hope you top deck one of those cards to make this worthwhile for 4 cubes here. Do you think Juggernaut might be a trickier play here, Guest?
I think Juggernaut has a surprise play specifically on Titan, because being able to lock down Titan is going to really restrict that power increase that could happen over in the Quantum Realm on the right. So keep an eye on that, because it could very much so mess up the orders as Beast bounces a couple of cards back from Kunlun and brings Werewolf over, who's slowly shooting up higher and higher and higher with all of these extra reinforcements thanks to Kunlun.
Yeah, that +2 turned into +4 every time he goes over to the right lane. So that wolf is juicy right now, but he does top deck the Ultron. So a lucky top deck there for Void. He's also able to play out the Nebula, although it wouldn't do any better than the Ultron drones here. So Ultron right looks like the play. Should be able to win left. Question is, will he be able to win another lane here with the Ultron play, King?
I don't think so. If he's lucky, he might get the left and the mid. But it all depends on where this werewolf ends up. Because werewolf, I can't see its exact
16.
power level right now, but
Yep.
it's
Big wolf.
16. Holy mackerel. So you've got, by the time it's bounced around, it's going to be 20. It's going to be 20, 22 possibly. So he's about to drop a whole bunch of ones and a hit monkey. So yeah, I'm looking at this being very difficult for Void to,
Yep,
to
Ragged doing the
overcome.
math here, just trying to figure out where the power is going to land with the Ultron. And here it comes, guest.
And bring it all back. Falcon trying to just get some extra activations of Werewolf by Night. We're going to see a lot of movement here. The Nico play comes on down, brings Werewolf over into the left. Hit Monkey goes on down, reinforces up to 13 power when all is said and done, brings that Werewolf back over into the left, up to 43 total as Rocket Raccoon activates into Kunlun, takes that Werewolf, brings it over to Kunlun, gets another 2 power over there, shoots up to 25, and the Widow's Kiss is there for a good time for reinforcement, getting the +2, and Titania sits there as well when Ultron drops everything when all is said and done. It's going to be a swing on over in the Quantum Realm, and it is not going to be enough for the Void as Ragged knocks out the Void with only 3 cubes knocked off the top from there. Great gameplay to watch as we see Bounce constantly making a strong effort here in competitive Marvel Snap, and with all of the changes that have been happening, I would not be surprised to see more and more Bounce decks emerge, not just on ladder, but in competitive Marvel Snap. What do you think about what you just saw, King?
Absolutely. That was a fantastic showing of 2 not technically top tier decks. They were put together quite nicely. Bounce and Patriot both had their own unique style. And like Hitmonkey has always been a great deck, but it's never been a top tier deck. Same thing with Patriot. Patriot Ultron has always been a good deck, but it's never been a top tier deck. So seeing them put together nicely, it was a great showing of how they can do it. And that Hitmonkey Black Swan combo is going to be one to watch. He only lost 3 cubes,
Very
Parry.
masterful play there. Bounce is one of the harder decks to pilot. There's a lot of thinking that you have to do, especially when you have the werewolf moving around, trying to do all the math of how many remaining moves are you going to have, how many on reveals do you have left in your hand, and having to add on to that playing around Sandman. Very masterful piloting there from Ragged. Impressive stuff. I think he might go pretty far in this tournament.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. I think right now it's something to keep an eye on. Not in the sense that it's a dangerous play, but we literally just talked about it right before we were coming on down with a Sandman-style deck. And sure enough, to help counter it, we still saw Bounce come over the top. So maybe we see Electro ramp Sandman try to take down a Bounce-style deck, but I'm not 100% sure yet. We're going to get ready to possibly catch up into the middle of another broadcast here. We're going to take a quick short break here, possibly run an ad, and we will be right back, ladies and gentlemen. So stick around. See you in a moment.
Matches in round 1. So Flan 56 looks like we're almost tied, but he's down. Was that
3 to 5 cubes at the moment, King, as we see Pac Emi playing what appears to be either a move list or a Phoenix Force list. Those are typically the 2 lists you see running Human Torch at the moment, and Flan is playing a list that has Mockingbird, Mysterio. So one of those, just, reducing the Mockingbird kind of lists, playing a bunch of tech here with Nico, Nocturne. So we'll see what the rest of this deck shapes out to be. But we do have a lead here on Pac's side.
It gets out Mysterio, will knock down the Mockingbird, Nocturne to take care of locations. hood. I'm going to guess with the hood. Oh, it's going to get Oh, I thought they were going to transfer it or transmute it or transition it. I don't know. I'm looking for a
It's all
word here
right.
that's not coming out.
There you go.
Transform it. There we go. That's the word I was
No
looking for.
transform on the hood
Transform it.
just yet, but we do have the Nico location spell active, which could come into play here with the limbo coming down. Depends on if Flan wants that 7 turns or not, or will he go change a different location. But Red Guardian drawn, and we are going to see Nocturne coming down on the left side with the Torch and the Multiple Man. In the same lane, I'm beginning to think that this might be a Phoenix Force list, King. What do you think about Phoenix Force right now?
Phoenix Force, as much as everyone disliked the change, I think people got over it. The move aspect, the change to move in general, people are working around now. They've gotten used to the fact that your move happens first and then everything happens next. I'm still not a huge fan of it because I'm still in the mentality of things were easier when, you know, you could dodge certain things, you could change certain things, but the worst thing that happens for me is when you move your Nocturne and then you're playing your 2 cards behind it, and then, you know, your Nocturne changes your location into a destroy location, and then your next 2 cards that you put down get destroyed. So that's, you know, unfortunate, but I liked it the way it used to be, but that's unfortunate.
Indeed.
The
So
way
we
it
do
goes.
see Flan having the Sentry come down here. Looks like they're playing possibly some sort of a Nihilist package here with the Mysterio Nocturne as well. And we have Pac playing what appears to be, I think the Copycat is an interesting inclusion in a Phoenix Force list, but with the Shuri, I'm almost certain that's a Phoenix Force list guest.
100% I'm in agreement with there. And seeing Limbo also on the board and watching the disabling of the Human Torch via the Red Guardian from the first one, I'm pretty sure to say that with Phoenix Force on the table, that right now their best option, and this seems to be the line that they're going on so far because we haven't seen any destroy cards pop down yet. This is just clog it up with as many Nimrods as possible, but here they go. Here's the Mysterios to come on down. Shuri's going to duplicate the Phoenix Force as is just for 10 power to try to take the Baxter building. Little bit of a surprise move there as Nico now comes on down with her extra +2 on the next card to drop. So if you had to make a prediction, knowing that Nocturne could disable the Limbo right now, how would you handle this situation if you are Pac Imi?
Well, Pac does have the cube lead here in the match and clearly didn't get a great draw if you're playing Shuri into raw Phoenix Force with nothing to bring back. No Nimrod here as well, no destroy cards, not looking too hot. I would certainly anticipate the Limbo being turned off here, seeing the Nocturne, and we have Flan in a very strong position as well with the Annihilus and the Demon. That's probably what I would do here. Move the Nocturne right, drop the Annihilus and the Demon mid. He's considering the Mockingbird, though, maybe going for some mind games, thinking maybe Pac will show their hand a bit early, expecting the Limbo to be turned off. That is one of the fun aspects about Nocturne, just not knowing whether or not she's going to be moving to turn off that Limbo guest.
I like the mind game here in particular because it guarantees that Pac is going to know if they're not playing it on down, Mockingbird's going over into the right, and then Annihilus can do that 16-point swing. Sorry, more than that. It'd be a 22-point swing if both Hood and Void land over into Limbo. This is an interesting game to mess with right here and not take that Nocturne route as time is running out. They just play the Mockingbird mid, and Tribunal makes its appearance into Mojo World, forcing the notion that you're going to have to clog up Mojo World to reduce down those locations in priority, then swings in favor of Pac Imi.
Yeah, I don't think Pac's going to be able to fill up that right location, so we're going to have 11 negative power getting sent over to the side, and we're also going to see a pretty big reduction there on the overall power of Tribunal. Once that Mojo World is filled out, those numbers will go back to normal instead of having that plus 100. And here it comes, guests. We see the Nocturne turn the Mojo World off into White Palace. We're going to see that Annihilus come down and shoot over that negative 11. Shang-Chi to take out the Mockingbird. Pretty good play here, but will it be enough to overcome it?
15 power on the board right now into the center and into limbo. Let's shoot over those -11s. It's going to make it close in the center. The reveals of the Mysterios with a different placement. It would have done it. And unfortunately for Flan, he will be taken down by the power of the living tribunal. Pakimi takes down with the Phoenix Force tribunal variation, which seems to be almost the default version. That's the one I see the most now for in the Phoenix Force decks, and I think that might be a byproduct of what we also saw from, well, the changes that King was talking about in the very beginning. So if this is the future of Phoenix Force and that flexibility is going to be the future of Phoenix Force in a very combo heavy deck, again, I think Bounce and these multiple card big surprise plays with the flexibility of a Living Tribunal final play as a single turn card, that's a very strong deck in the competitive scene right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Shang-Chi really flipped it there on Baxter building for him. He had what he needed to get over the top, but the Shang-Chi taking out the Mockingbird that was played a turn early. Some interesting decisions there from Flan, but that cost him the tournament life. Unfortunate for Flan as Pakimi moves on.
So we are waiting on one last match that is happening on round number 1 before we can broadcast round number 2 and get into the meat of the competition. We have had people patiently waiting in round number 2 for the past 40 some odd minutes now. This first round is going, and we've gotten quite a few interesting matchups lined up for, oh no, we are set. Aruma has won, so we can get into round number 2. We have some interesting matches lined up for round number 2. I'm interested at seeing Dragon versus Lucifer. We have Hoof Irons versus Mr. High. There's Whimsic versus Blood Reina. We have Lucky Charm versus Philip Ratko. There's Ishan Jane versus Ragat. Chaos Severin versus Roy. And Jackie versus Arwan. So that is what sets the stage for round number 2. I'm quite interested in what's going to happen.
Saw some pretty exciting games that first round, and we are going to be moving on to round number 2 shortly here. Do we know who our first matchup's going to be? I personally would be interested in seeing Dragon. He is a very strong player that goes to a lot of our channels and shares some pretty fun, spicy lists as well. So if we could try and get that Dragon match on stream, I think that would be one the audience would really enjoy seeing.
Let's find out momentarily. We're going to get ready for round number 2 here, set it up here on the back end. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, we'll be right back in just a brief moment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back in round 3 round 2 is underway with the 3 of us. Matchups and codes and everything are being shared right now as we have gone from 32 down to 16. And man, slowly but surely, I will say, we're hearing the conversations and the smack talk that are happening in the back channels at the same time. This is one of the best parts about competitive Marvel Snap, in my opinion, is the friendly banter. I've never seen like true smack talk outside of a Ms. Marvel emote in Marvel Snap, but the competitive aspect of this type of stuff with the community is a hell of a lot of fun. King, thank you so much for bringing this to the forefront for us to broadcast and showcase here today. It's been a lot of fun so far. Tell us what else are you expecting as we go through the rest of the King's Clash?
Oh, it's been a blast. It's never malicious when you have this smack talk going on. It's friendly banter. They all love their competitiveness, and we are underway for round number 2. We have lots to go, and I have a special announcement that I'm going to be making and round number 4. So stay with us, folks. Once we get to round 4, I've got a special announcement to make here live on King's Clash 3.
That's what
Are
we
you
call a
enjoying yourself,
tease
Parry?
in the business, my friend. Yes, I will be
Yes.
firmly glued to my seat until round 4 to find out what your big announcement is. I am having a great time. I was going to say earlier, yes, in regards to the Miss Marvel emote, it's pretty telling that the most toxic thing you can do in a game is give a thumbs up to somebody. So that shows about how angry people really get at each other in this game. It is mostly friendly banter, and we are getting underway here with our next match. We have Lucifer versus Dragon. So what do you think we're going to be seeing here based on the cards we have for Lucifer, King?
It looks like Hammer Bros. It's hammer time. Whoa, 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 whoa. So it looks like we've got Mobius and Mobius, Odin, Thor, and
The
Beta Ray
Asgardians
Bill.
on the board here. Dragons got the hood down in the Oscorp Tower, so that's going to be a free Viper or a Nihilus over for the hood. Good play there from Dragon. Nothing cooking yet on Lucifer's side. Judging from the Mobius and the Wasp, I would imagine this is a Pixie build as well. And King, I don't know if you know or not. I think I mentioned this on a interview we did, but Pixie's actually one of my least favorite cards in the game because she just never seems to give me any sort of value. How do you feel about Pixie, King?
Oh, I'm the same way. Pixie doesn't do anything for me whatsoever. I put Pixie down, and it's like she doesn't exist. She doesn't change my cards. She doesn't change anything going on. It's like she just pops up and says, "Hey, I'm here.
Hey,
but
I'm
I'm not
a
going to
2-1
do
that I'm
anything
going to
for you."
draw on the final turn of the
So-
game that doesn't make any bit of difference to you, or I'm going to make your Wasp and your Yellow Jacket cost 6 and not actually reduce anything else. Just how it works. And there she is in the hand for Lucifer. Sorry, guys. Noted Pixie hater here. Very biased commentary. As Dragon throws down the Bishop on Washington, D.C., and Lucifer gets 2 of the Asgardians down here. Thor on 3 and looking to play Beta Ray mid on 4 here. So no Jane Foster yet. No Pixie value just yet. We're going to have to see if Lucifer can top deck that Jane Foster to get some true value out of these Asgardians.
I'm a big fan of the
Absolutely.
recent reemergence that's happened of the Thor Beta Ray Bill archetype, and I'm not sure exactly what the full proc of making that happen was, as Beta Ray Bill's revealed over into the Oscorp Tower, putting the Stormbreaker into the deck, followed by a White Widow to help clog up that Oscorp Tower just a tad in the center, followed by Rocket Raccoon from Dragoon. This deck looks very familiar, don't you think?
Yeah, we're seeing a slightly different version. No Werewolf just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it is in the deck with all these on-reveal cards. The Bishop, the White Widow, the Rocket. Will we be seeing a Beast come down this turn? Will we be seeing a Black Swan to get more one-drops out? We'll have to wait and see, but no Jane Foster here for Lucifer, so this is going to be a bit of a weak turn. No Stormbreaker, no Mjolnir. I don't think Lucifer's in a great position here, having to play the Mobius out on Danger Room. Dragon goes for the Sage play on Oscorp Tower, and indeed does bounce it back. So that is going to be a huge final turn here from Dragon. We're going to have to see what Lucifer top decks here on this final turn.
I'm liking the negativity from Dragoon, putting that little frowny face over on Mobius and Mobius to completely mess up the what could have been a very, very influential Beast turn, but now that they're dropping everything down, I'm a little surprised they're taking such a strong charge on the left, hoping that that Mjolnir is going to survive, getting a bunch of those cards down. Wouldn't the right have been a safer route to go, or are you that worried about Yellow Jacket?
I would be terrified personally. I would not want to play that Mjolnir over in the Danger Room alongside the Odin. That's asking a lot of RNG for 4 cubes on the second round of this tournament. I don't know if I have the cojones to do that, guest. But
Yeah.
Lucifer reconsidering here, maybe going, no, it looks like still going for the Odin over there. I don't know. That Mobius was a big play though, because Beast does reduce the cost of the cards that it picks up, but should still be a fairly sizable turn here, even if it's just a Sage and something else.
I mean, 75% chance is still good. You can't be upset with a 75% chance to keep that Mjolnir alive, but it's still very precarious as he locks it in, and time is about to run on out as Dragoon's trying to figure out how to take advantage of the non-reduced cards that Beast placed back in there too. Are they going to have to compete for the danger room? Are they going to be able to put down enough cards to ramp that bishop up? It's only going to be 3 in total as we watch the extra power go from Washington, D.C. into the Wasp. Here comes 1 and 2, and the Mjolnir survives. That's going to give us a total of 12 as the Odin's the one that disappears from the danger room. Rocket Raccoon completely whiffs Demon, followed by Sage is going to scale it over the top, and that's going to be enough to take 4 cubes off of Lucifer.
The power of Sage there, guest. Having it bounced back. The cost reduction be damned. She got huge. Over 2 procs of the Mjolnir on Thor. It still wasn't enough to win it for Lucifer. So -4 there for Lucifer as we get into the next round here, King.
Wow. Just the power that Sage can bring. That is amazing. 2 procs of Thor's hammer Mjolnir, and she still beat it out. Wow. But see, I've always favored Beta Ray over Thor. Beta Ray gets the double your power. Thor only gets 6. So if you have a choice between the two, definitely take Beta
It
Ray
depends
Bill.
on what hammer you drew, and they did draw the Mjolnir instead of the Stormbreaker, but Dragon here and Lucifer both playing on the Gamma Lab to get them Hulks going. Wouldn't be surprised if we see Yellow Jacket maybe come down here as well. You don't care about that -1 power if it's going to turn into a big green guy anyway. And look at that! I can't believe it, guys. It's Pixie value. A 3-cost Odin in the hand for Lucifer. That's impossible. I've never seen that before. That's the first time I've ever seen this. Wow.
That is actually some good value. Oh, and the opponent retreated, not knowing the value that they had.
Yep,
they
Dragon
took off.
saw that Pixie might have gotten them some value here and said, nope, not worth more than 1 cube. I'm going to dip out here as we have a connection issue. So we'll get that figured out behind the scenes here and bring you back to our beautiful faces. So, wow, funny thing there. Even with the Pixie value, only getting you 1 cube, because who wants to deal with that?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It must be storming around the world right now because everybody seems to be having some connection issues, and it's just the way it goes when we're sharing on the World Wide Web. Unfortunately, we run into issues like that. As you can tell, I'm choppy and sloppy because of the rain and weather that's going on, but we're getting perfect connections from Parry and guests. So even if I'm a pixel enjoyer today, we'll say.
Yes.
So
Full on pixel enjoyer.
I will fly the pixel flag.
No premium mystery variants found on your end because pixels are guaranteed here on King's side of the stream. I had the storm roll through my end last night. It was pouring sheets of rain down, and I think it is past now. It is still just back to being hot. The storm didn't actually help with any of the heat, as so is often the case. How's the weather by you, guest?
Honestly, the weather's been fantastic. Everything's kind of been, really safe over on this side, but I do have a good piece of news. We are going to be able to connect over to another game from a very familiar opponent that we did recently just see. So we're going to swing on over real quick here. I'm going to make this on the fly live, make the adjustment so we can bring on into the main stage number 2. We have Ragged is back, but this time they're going up against one of their biggest possible opponents, a Destroy deck.
Well, we saw Ragged deal with a tough matchup in the Patriot Sandman before and still wound up on top. So maybe Destroy won't be no thing for Ragged either. We'll have to see here.
Well, smiley face or what? I don't even know who the opponent is. See, that's one of the hard parts when you are able to put in emotes or whatnot in your title. Like, what do we call this guy?
This is Ishan.
Confused face?
Ishan.
Ishan, okay. We got Ishan versus Ragged here. A strong advantage here for Ishan with the Death's Domain playing Destroy as well. Yet we still see Ragged on top here, 10 full cubes to 7. Venom coming down, juicing up that Deadpool, jumping up to 8 power, reducing the cost of death, adding to the power of Null. All these cards synergizing so well together, and we see Raggett play down the Werewolf and Clintar, getting upset over that Death's Domain. Those free procs on the Deadpool, the X-23, it's going to go a long way here for Ishan. Guest.
I'm loving watching this Deadpool just continue to rise and rise and rise, and watch the danger that could happen here. Even with a 116, it's all going to come down to the placement of that X-23 probably on the final turn. If it's going to be on the final turn and end up in the Death's Domain, we have a chance at seeing some really great things. But they choose to bounce that Nico back and lose the advantage that they could have maintained in the Death's Domain, guessing that they were just fearful of a potential Killmonger?
Could be fearful of the Killmonger. I also think they realize that they can get that Werewolf over there, just tossing the Nico back in a Death's Domain. The Werewolf can bounce back over there and wind up winning that lane. But is that where you want the Werewolf to end up, or do you want to try and use that Werewolf to contest one of those other lanes? I think if you're Raggett, you probably want to just give up Throne Room here. You know that the Death or Null is just going to overpower pretty much anything that you can put in Throne Room. So if I was Raggett, I would probably try and wind up with my Werewolf on the right side and see if maybe we can sneak out a win. I don't know if they run Shadow King or not. Shadow King would probably go a big way in winning that left lane, reducing that symbiote to 0, maybe reducing the Deadpool if it winds up over there. But priority and figuring out where that Werewolf winds up is going to be huge if Raggett wants to contest this game.
Let's see, with the doubling of that Deadpool and no destruction from X-23, I'm surprised they're kind of going this route and just going with a singular Null play as the route. Keep the advantage in the Death's Domain, but seeing that there's been no destruction of X-23, I think they have no choice but to get that Werewolf over into the right, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to work out too well for Raggett unless he does have that Shadow King, like I said. But again, you can't Shadow King mid because you lose your Angela value. And the priority firmly on Ishan's side here with that X-23 holding down the right side. Will Ishan go for the Null, or will he just try and spread some power a little bit more with the Deadpool and friends?
We could also see
Deadpool actually stronger than the Null here as well.
Yeah, Deadpool's stronger than Null, but we could also see a cheeky Arnim Zola being brought over as well. You could see Zola bring that Death into the middle and into Death's Domain.
That would be the unexpected play for sure. A big risk with the symbiote and the Death. They do have priority, so if they are expecting a Shadow King, that might be a way to dodge it. But I think this is much safer here, going to try and win the left and the right here. We'll have to see what Raggett can do. I would probably think this could be a retreat on Raggett's end. It's hard to tell without knowing what's in the hand here for Raggett.
Raggett's going to do all of the bounces all over the place. Let's see how many cards they play on down and how many reinforcements to Angela we end up getting simultaneously. I wouldn't be surprised if Werewolf doesn't bounce into the Throne Room at all and just does its final move into the Death's Domain as we get a whopping 7 cards down from Raggett's side. Here they go. Start scaling that Bishop and that Hitmonkey piece by piece as Clintar is going to be easily given over to Raggett. Let's drop on down the rest. Here comes a Demon. We get a Rocket Raccoon giving a reinforcement for the Throne Room. And when all is said and done, you've got Nico bringing that Werewolf by Night over into Death's Domain. That's going to scale up incredibly tall. What's going to solidify it over in the end? It's a Kitty Pryde for some extra destruction, just in case if there was a surprise conversion. But safe moves there. Puts everything over into the domain. Werewolf by Night's going to win that lane. Clintar is going to be solidified, and that is a 4-cube knock, now bringing it down as a 10-7 advantage. Bounce over destroy.
10-3 advantage there.
Sorry, 10-3. 7 moved off. Math is hard, all right? You know what?
It certainly is.
I have done a lot of hours recently. Math is hard. You're making me do that here now, King. How dare you? I am not your jester, good sir.
I am sorry. It is a weekend. We're not supposed to be mathing on a weekend, but unfortunately, numbers do get crunched here in
Ragged
Marvel
making some
Snap.
very smart plays there, throwing those extra cards into Death's Domain just to give Bishop a few extra procs as well. I think that was smart there. Again, the werewolf did take the right side as we get into our second round here, King. Strong start here from Ishan, getting the X-23 out early. That's going to help ramp up. And I'm noticing an interesting inclusion in this Destroy deck here. Eliath. How do you feel about Eliath in Destroy? We haven't seen that in a while.
Eliath and Destroy is quite interesting. I wouldn't expect to have an Eliath in the thing. But we can't see the gameplay anymore. We see the three of us.
Yes, and I'm apparently in a tropical paradise, which is wonderful. Thank you for adding that for my green screen there.
You're in a medieval fair, my friend. A medieval fair.
Or a medieval fair. Couldn't tell. I just saw some greenery as we have the Carnage coming down, getting rid of the Sabertooth that was given by Camp Lehigh. So we might actually see some rare Sabertooth value here. 0-5.
Now, how often does that happen when Camp Lehigh actually syncs up with your deck and gives you something that you can use? Like, he's a destroy package and it gives him Sabertooth?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
That's one of the rare instances of Camp Lehigh providing value. We also saw it earlier in our match where we got a wave to get the Ultron out early. So Camp Lehigh being kind to our contestants today. And it looks like, so Ishan's running a funky destroy list here, getting a bit greedy perhaps with the magic and the Eliath. I like it. It's different. It's unexpected. Gonna get some extra boosts on the null here because of that free Sabertooth, but not gonna go for the magic play. Instead, it would appear just looking to juice up and get ready for this big final turn play of Deadpool and null potentially guessed. Here we go.
Flip it on down. Venom's going to consume everybody, take the extra energy as well. So you're going to be able to see 3 big cards on the final turn. Consume it on down. Sabertooth back to the hand. X-23 lands pretty safely over in the sewer system with a Deadpool on top of it. 12 power is the final total for Venom as Black Swan and Kitty Pryde make their appearances in Negative Zone and Camp Lehigh. Now, you've got 7 energy, a free Sabertooth. You've got Deadpool as a 1/4, and then a null if you want to go on it, or an Eliath. Which direction would you want to probably steer your deck if you were Ishane?
Well, I'm not sure if he's seen the Eliath yet or not in this match. That is a key factor of it, considering that Ishan has the priority here. I certainly wouldn't be expecting an Eliath in a Destroy deck, so this could be a good opportunity to get Ishan on the board if Ragged hasn't seen the Eliath and may not be anticipating it yet. The Deadpool and the Sabertooth right is a decent addition of power, adding 9 over to the 12. So 19 power on the right, and then the Eliath to secure the left. I don't know if I would go for the Eliath left. I feel like I might have maybe switched that up a little bit, Guest. What do you think? What would you do here?
It doesn't matter because we see our Eliath come on down. Take the reduction off of those 2 cards over in the sewer system. Here comes the Sabertooth, and we get our werewolf bouncing all over the place. The Hood is the choice in the Negative Zone as a sacrifice, and it's going to end up being a full location switch on top of it because Hitmonkey is going to bring that werewolf out of the lane. That's going to give favor to Ishane over on this. Kitty Pryde comes on down, and you've got no effect from the Rocket, no effect from the Titania, but the lack of movement because of the Rocket being disabled by Eliath is what allows Ishane to take his first 3 cubes off of Ragged.
There it is. Clearly from the emote, Ragged was not expecting the Eliath, so nice play, getting as much value as he can out of the Eliath there, King. And
he did. He got a massive amount of... He got a massive amount of...
That middle lane, too. Throwing the middle lane like that. Ishan didn't have to play anything in that middle lane, and he still won because of Negative Zone.
Yeah. So, and the surprise factor of having Eliath inside, that is amazing.
Absolutely. I would certainly not expect Eliath in a Destroy deck. Haven't been seeing that in a while, but it pays dividends there for Ishan, keeping his tournament hopes alive as we see a snap for that final cube going into the high stakes here. Will we see a magic to get rid of one of these problematic locations?
That's what I was going to say. Is he going to play Magic to extend what's going on? I don't know if he's seen Magic yet, but now that we have Magic down,
Curious
got some
decision
extra
there to play
turns.
Magic on the Warrior Falls, a location that would typically benefit a Destroy player. I
Yeah.
think Jotunheim would have been the play there for Magic, Guest. What do you think?
I think they're trying to. It looks like they're setting up Jotunheim as a look. Let me get 7 turns. Let me destroy everything as high as possible. Ramping with the Muir Island, eat it all up, destroy it there, so that way I can go big with Null and Death and all of these cards that, in a bounce deck, you want Jotunheim to disappear. And I think that Ishane knows this as he destroys the X-23, which is going to bounce on over into Jotunheim and reduce one of its power away. So a little bit of an uh-oh situation, but they do have a Killmonger in their hand. As we get a Hood over into Limbo, preceded by the Nico Minoru, which is going to convert a White Palace in play and give a Death over to Ragged. So now Ragged's going to be able to take advantage of a reduced down card as well, as Beast puts both into their hand on top of it. A lot of movement in that moment, but the White Palace gaining Death and not gaining Null as we get it top decked for Ishane on the next turn. That might be the key here that allows another 3 cubes to possibly come off of Ragged.
Yeah, but getting that Null is some good value for Ragged as well. We're going to have to see if Ishan chooses to destroy more cards and reduce that Death so they can both play it out, or will there be a more... I mean, there's not many other options at this point. The Black Swan doesn't help Ishan out all that much. Does have priority, so could go for a turn 5 Alioth, maybe trying to snipe the Black Swan, reduce the amount of cards Ragged can play, and that is what we see here as Alioth comes down, knocking out 2 cards on the right side, but the Black Swan was on the left, Guest.
Oh, that's going to disable only the Angela and Hood. Now, the Hood does have a nice benefit here because that would have been another 1/6 that could have stacked into their hand. And all it did was ramp the Bishop, but took off 3 power from the lane. So now if you're sitting in the boat of Ragged, who still has not played down their Werewolf by Night, for example, this could be a very solid play. And Ishane is actually debating the double Alioth play potentially as an option.
I was thinking the same thing. That's a cheeky play there. If you get it, of course, it can hit the Carnage here. It's a 50-50.
It's your last 3 cubes.
Yeah, that's a bold play, but he's sticking with it. Gonna go out like an actual champ on a 50-50 play on Alioth. Will it even be enough is the question.
If he pulls this off, it's going to be amazing. Does it hit it? It does!
Oh!
It hits the Alioth out of Muir Island. Put down all of that disability onto the White Palace and to Jotunheim. Let's watch the flips as Titania is going to steal the Muir Island. It's only a demon and then a Kitty Pryde to give 14 over on the left, and Nico doesn't do anything. With that said, the double Alioth is cheeky, but not cheeky enough. And Ragged, once again with an amazing bounce play, is able to take all of these 1-cost cards and play around a destroy deck on top of it. King, did you see that coming today?
Wow. No, I was... my RNG, it would have hit Carnage. But
yeah,
the fact that he was able to hit that Alioth and then hit both lanes, unfortunately, it was 1 point, and that's the heartbreaker. It was 1 point away from winning the left lane, and 14-13, unfortunately, did not cut it. He did a fantastic job, but unfortunately is out of the tournament.
Crushing loss there for Ishan. Got the 50-50, but it didn't matter. The cards Alioth hit. No monkey, unfortunately. I guess that's what he was trying to snipe there. Getting rid of that monkey text would have been huge, but instead we had the opponent play around it there, and the demon and the kitty losing their text. Didn't matter. The power stays because of the changes to Alioth.
Yeah, but you can't sit back and say you saw a double Alioth coming. Like, whether he was going to play as monkey or not, you can't say that you knew double Alioth was on its way. So,
yet alone successful.
That was an amazing, awesome play. Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. A successful Double Elias.
Crazy matches we've seen so far in the King's Clash number 3. Exciting stuff here on this Saturday.
100%, my friend. We are going to be taking a look around and see what other matches might be floating around here in the kingdom. So stick around, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We're going to take a short break, dive in deeper here into this fair, and we will be right back. Stick around. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome on back in. Round 3 is about to start on in here, but I know we wanna get a couple of things discussed because they're very hot topics right now in the world of Marvel Snap.
Yes, so we've been seeing some differing opinions on whether the Loki change was actually a nerf or a buff. Now, I do think overall it is a nerf. I think outside of Arishem, Loki is probably not as good as he was. However, I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about, does this make Loki and Arishem decks a little bit better? What do you think, King?
I think that Loki is now a card all by himself. He is a tech card that gives you 12 new cards, and if you can get him on turn 3, you get 12 brand new cards. It depletes your Arishem 24. It gives you 12 brand new cards from your opponent's deck. Then you just have to work around playing them out. So it actually kind of helps Arishem by depleting its 24 down to 12. But the worst part is you play a Loki on turn 6, you're giving Darkhawk 12 cards right off the hop. So no matter what, you're getting those 12 cards. So you now need to play Loki early. I created a nice little Loki deck where you can play him out on 3, then you Crystal, then you Adam Warlock. You know, Adam Warlock now has a place in the new Loki deck. So
yeah, I think you're going to have to see some more creative builds. I think the same lists where you had all of the card generation cards like your Coulson and your Nick Fury, those might take a little bit of a back seat and maybe focus on some more tech options where now you don't have to sacrifice that Shang-Chi that's in your hand. Now you don't have to sacrifice the Mockingbird in your hand if you want to play Loki. You can keep those cards in your hand and play him out as early as turn 2 because you do get that extra max energy from Arishem. So it's interesting. It does take down Darkhawk's massive power against Arishem a little bit, as well as Cassandra Nova. But I think the cards will still have a place, even if you are pumping 12 cards into your deck. Typically, Darkhawk would only be getting in a regular match. You know, you play, by the time Darkhawk comes down, your deck only has 3-4 cards left in it, maybe a bit more if some rocks were played. So changing your deck to a full 12 will still be quite strong for Darkhawk. It would get that extra 24 power, but not nearly the numbers he was seeing prior to that Loki change.
Yeah, we are getting our matchup set on down here. It's okay, it happens. We are getting our matchup set up over here, ladies and gentlemen, as we're getting onto the main stage. We have Philip Ratko getting matched on in right now. We're trying to get his game up and live so we can showcase that. So Philly, let's see who Philly is going to be taking up against in the full screen right over here.
Philly will be taking on, let's see where, Whimsic. Looking at our bracket, Whimsic is Philly's opponent. So we're just waiting on Whimsic to get on in. Our final 4 matches is Mr. High and Molwyn, Whimsic and Philip, Lucifer and Reget, and Roy versus Arwan.
For the moment, while we wait on these final matchups to come on down, I apologize, King of Canada, go on head on over to the admin back-a-house chat right now so we can get some administrative actions taken care of to keep our competitive integrity as we allow Philly to get that pair on in right now. So looking at the name of the deck, it's a Millman's Daughter, I think is what it says. It's a little difficult to read. Can I blow it up on my screen? Yeah, I think it says Millman's daughter, so I'm assuming we're looking into some kind of a mill deck being competed against here. One of the more frustrating decks to go up against, to say the least, but has consistently, since the evolution of Baron Zemo, consistently been a really aggressive deck to go up against Parry. As someone who I know you are just as much regularly in the ladder as I am, when you see that Cable on 2, and you know what's coming down 3, 4, 5 most likely, how do you prepare for that type of matchup if that is what the Millman's daughter is?
So Mill is an interesting archetype because it is relatively new to the world of Snap. People had been trying to make some cope Mill decks in the past, myself included, with your Moon Knight and Silver Samurai and your Yondu, Cable, that kind of stuff. But it was really the advent of Gladiator and Zemo that we started to see Mill kind of rise up into its own archetype. And one of the most frustrating parts of Mill, to me at least, was Doc Ock. Now, with the Doc Ock being changed, he does still disrupt quite a bit, pulling your lowest power cost out of your hand, or lowest power card out of your hand, rather, but not the full extent of what he used to do. So Mill is also another archetype that feels bad to play against, but isn't necessarily the strongest. The stats don't show Mill being a top tier deck. It's just one of those decks that feels bad to play against. So I think it's fine as long as it doesn't get too powerful. I think we'll see a little bit less of it with the Doc Ock nerf until we see some creator come up with some new Mill list. Copycat lends to that as well. One of my favorite cards to come out recently. The value and intel that she can provide, that Cable can provide, even that Yondu can provide. Just knowing on turn 1, okay, it destroyed, X23. That means they're most likely playing Destroy. And now you can just kind of mentally prepare yourself for what to expect in that match, especially in a conquest game where intel is so important. So Mill, a good tournament deck, not the best ladder deck. We're going to have to see how it performs here in King's Clash 3 today, guest.
I am excited to see this matchup because I know Philly has been regularly into several different tournaments. I know I've cast probably a couple of random matches and of his between all of the billion different tournaments that we see in the world of Marvel Snap. But I'm curious to see how he has chosen to bring in. We talked about the spice of whatever that one specific card is, whether it's the Eliath in the Destroy deck or the Cull Obsidian in a bounce deck, the one little extra thing that brings the competitive twist into the conversation. I'm curious if they've gone and thrown in that kind of twist. So King, I'm going to ask this of you. If you had to build a Mill deck with a twist, what would you build?
Oh, well, to answer that, I am going to let you know that I have a very special deck coming up later tonight. While we're waiting, we might as well do my little bit of announcement.
Ooh, early.
So,
okay.
Here, what we did last time, we're trying to kill some time, so I might as well flabbergast a little. So, last time we had King's Clash 2, I did the double down, and I am going to offer the double down again to the winner of King's Clash 3. If they win and want to double down their winnings, they can take on me, and I will double their pot. They will walk home with $100 instead of $50. But if they lose, they go home with nothing. Nada. Zero. Zilch. So, for our final 8 competitors, that's something to think about. Will you take on the double down? I will wait your response when we get to our finals. And our match is underway.
Huge news there from the King of Canada, the boss man of the tournament, offering doubling of the prize if you can defeat him in a final battle. But first, our contestants do have to get there. We have a show of sportsmanship here from our 2 contestants, fist bumping each other ahead of the round, Feely and Sneaky. We are seeing what does appear to be a Mill list running the Baron Zemo, and a bit of tech here as well. Red Guardian, Rogue, and Shadow King. So a very tech-heavy version of Mill, if that is indeed what we're seeing, up against a Lizard on the other side. King.
Yeah, Shadow King, Red Guardian, Baron Zemo, Rogue, Copycat.
Shadow
Not sure
King.
what Copycat just grabbed,
So-
but Shadow King. So he's got double Shadow
More
King.
importantly,
Ooh,
knows that the
wow.
opponent doesn't have Shadow King. I feel like that is one of the key aspects of Copycat. Just knowing that your opponent doesn't have this card now is such invaluable intel to have. So we do see the Luke Cage come down here from Squeaky.
Absolutely.
Looks like they might be playing some sort of toxic deck. Indeed, the Baron Zemo pulls the Hazmat out. But look at that. Philly also running a bit of toxicity in the deck with US Agent, which he's going to sacrifice to the Black Vortex here. Let's see what he gets, King.
It's very interesting indeed. He
Arnim
pulls
Zola,
down.
the low roll there on the Black Vortex. It's always a
Oh.
disappointment to see pop out.
Yeah, when you get the high card with Destroyer taking out your whole deck, or you get the low card with Armin, and yeah, unfortunately those cards do exist. And
so yes,
it
we're
does
seeing a
happen.
very spicy play here
Yeah.
from Philly. I feel like there should be a snap. The Rogue on Luke Cage is the antithesis of the entire game plan of Squeaky. You got to snap here, right, Philly?
I'm pretty sure you have to. There's really not too many other options as Sarah's going to drop into Xandar, and we get that revelation. There's the Rogue who's going to take on that Luke Cage, give a little bit of protection. I mean, that's a big miss here in these very first opening rounds. We've talked about it in multitude as Cable then pulls a 4/10 Typhoid Mary out on the board as well.
With no downsides now because that Luke Cage is on the side of Philly again. Yeah, I feel like you missed out on a huge moment there. Not knowing your opponent, not knowing you have Rogue in these closed deck list tournaments, that's some value. You got to make your opponent pay to see that. So we're going to see the Typhoid Mary come down here on the right. The US Agent on the left isn't going to do a whole lot unless it turns into Agatha. That's pretty big play. That might just be enough to take it over there for Squeaky with 14 power on the left side. The Enchantress gets rid of the rogued Luke Cage. The Typhoid Mary's not going to be enough, and it's a casserole from Squeaky.
Wow.
Huge
Two
final
cube
turn.
Cass. Oh boy. All right.
Wow.
We gotta have a
sometimes-
matchup, y'all.
I guess it didn't. I guess it's a good thing Philly didn't snap because they could have lost 4 cubes there instead of 2. Wow, great counters there from Squeaky to take that one from the jaws of defeat.
Well, even just the Agatha, the high roll of Agatha, that sucked for Philip. Just getting that put down, it took over his whole. It outpowered his whole side of the board.
Yeah,
with
4
one
cards
card.
on the left for Philly, and Agatha said, "I don't care. You can have Zola. We got the queen over here." And we have Maximus coming down for Squeaky, bricking the hand, so nothing on Philly's side from the Great Portal. And we do have the Adelan coming as well. They're playing pretty fast here, King.
Yes, absolutely. But that's the way you got to do it. You're confident with your deck. You can put things down and get it done. So there's nothing wrong with that. Playing fast and playing confident is good.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting strategy. I usually like to try and take my time, think my moves over. You have that timer, and usually you're benefited by using it. But Philly says, nope, I know this deck inside and out, so here we go. Dropping the Quinjet and the Agent Coulson, getting a Man-Thing and a MODOK. Not super helpful against a toxic list here.
Little bit of a tight play with
No,
that
it
US
is
Agent
not.
trying to have to counter with everything in here too, as we get a snap over from Philly before moving on, and Squeaky says, I don't want anything to deal with it. That's fine. We're just going to continue and move on and go to the next round.
Yep, Adelan must not have been kind to Sneaky there. Said, nope, not worth it. Got a pretty busted hand, so let's just continue on to the next game here, King.
So Rogue, Gladiator, Quinjet, and Baron Zemo. Now the Quinjet, what does that really benefit in this deck? I saw the cable.
I think they had
That'd be
Agent
about
Coulson
it,
as
right?
well. So they're kind of a mill
Oh,
and
okay.
card generation hybrid, taking advantage of the cable, getting you a card in hand, and trying to get some extra value out of the Quinjet from the cards generated. We see the Lizard come down, turn 2 here for Squeaky.
Yeah, I love me some Quinjet. being able to reduce the power on some of those lower cost cards, having a Mirage grab your opponent's weakest card, and then being able to lower the cost of it
And
with
give
the
it plus
Quinjet.
two.
You know, you get, it gets a +2 and a -1. It's
Definitely valuable. But
Very
we're going to see
valuable.
some value here with Gladiator. This could be a bit risky. There's some high pulls in Squeaky's deck, like Typhoid Mary, probably an Ajax as well. I would imagine that Gladiator could pull here. Let's see what he pulls here.
He
Ooh,
gets
thing will
barely.
die.
Bang.
But
Oh, no.
unfortunately, this Gladiator is going to get cooked as well by Murder World, getting rid of the copycatted Shadow King. So Squeaky knows that his Shadow King was disabled and that Philly has Copycat in hand as well. Some reverse intel there from Copycat.
Interesting play
So
with
we
the
put
Snow
down
Guard,
Baron
too.
Zemo with the Snow Guard.
This is a unique list, to say the least. We're seeing some card generation stuff. I wonder if there's a collector somewhere in this deck that just hasn't been pulled yet for some extra value. We see the Zemo come down, pulling out the US Agent. Nice pull there from Squeaky. And the Enchantress to take out the Quinjet, as well as free up the Lizard from the negative effect. So we're going into turn 5 here, guest.
All right, now, and with a Coulson top deck, it's all a matter of, I think it's just raw power at this point. If it's going to be turn 5, looking at removing the Sinister London as a potential block play. Yep, they go for it. They take 1 card in from Cable, so it's going to leave 5 open spaces because Hawk is not going to allow the doubling from Squeaky side, who was aiming to get 2 Sarahs there on turn 5 and have a flood of cards for turn 6. It has been disabled. And now, with 6 each, they have to rock the rest out. I love seeing the second U.S. Agent getting drawn to reduce down that Sarah to 0. Lot of reductions on top of the board, and just a little bit of power, just an 8 in total. That might be a miss. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm trying to see if they're... No, that's the highest amount of points they can get into that lane at this point.
Yep, and here it comes down. We got the U.S. Agent reducing the Sarah to 0. No copies because the Sinister London is still disabled from the Snow Guard Hawk. Hazmat, Typhoid Mary going to reduce everything, but Luke Cage brings it back up, and that's enough for Squeaky to take it with 4 cubes again. The final turn, Luke Cage came.
Wow.
Big combo there, being able to put down
Wow.
Typhoid, Luke, and Hazmat all on turn 6. So you get a tall card, you get an AoE, and that is a very powerful combination that you have not seen a lot of in Marble Snap, and one that we should probably take note of after this tournament too.
Yes, that is a massive amount of power and strategy played down in
Yeah, I'm
one
liking
drop.
Squeaky's build here. A bit of a toxic Sarah control list, and being able to play those big cards out for cheap at the end goes a long way. Those 2 drops, those impactful 2 drops, being able to play them for 1 cost, like a Maximus, like a US Agent, like a Shadow King. There's a lot you can do with Sarah instead of just playing 3 threes.
And I'm curious as to why the Maximus, other than the power in Squeaky's hand, why he has Maximus. Because he's not running a Ronin. He's not running anything like that we've seen. So I'm guessing it's just a powerful stat
That's pretty
line.
much the way I see it here. Maximus being able to be played out for a 1/6 on the final turn with Sarah down. Your opponent's usually not anticipating that kind of power for so cheap. So I think that's why Maximus here, although he does play it early this time, which I'm not sure I agree with, but maybe he doesn't have the Sarah in hand. We see the Typhoid Mary come down for Squeaky, and we see the Snow Guard and the Red Guardian hitting the Maximus there as well.
Look at the draw, though, with just that little tiny rock getting in the way. If you're looking at a disabling piece, as we look at a possible disconnect? Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Connection problems.
Oh, no.
We have
No.
seen this before, folks. This happens. Welcome to the world of Marble Snap. Hopefully this does not ruin the gameplay from the 2 of them, but let's see how they handle the time delay. Remember, with the reconnect, sometimes you are going to miss a couple of seconds on your original timer. Let's see if it actually comes to be. I'm going to double check even on my end to make sure that I am getting that live cast. There is their disconnect. Let's see if they can catch back up in time. Philly.
Load, load, load.
When all else fails, turn it off, turn it back on again. Oh,
no, you can't generate a new code. That's going to make a new match. Is that a... Oh, no.
We're going to have to work with our participants in the background here to figure out the best course of action. I know that the admins and the mods are going to be all on top of it, helping Philly in the background, trying to get the proper match, even if it means we do a rematch up specifically of the right amount of cubes up to a certain point. At least we have some kind of record of what was going on here as well. I know, King, you're going to be on top of that, helping out, working with all of the mods in the background that have really helped make this tournament happen privately in the background, like Two Ties specifically has been doing a great job working with our tournament participants, communicating, start this match, go over here, go to this room. So thank you so much to him as well. Even Philly, who is even on the back end helping us out with many of our matchups, who's also simultaneously competing. It's very, very cool to see all of these games happen. And we are going to get that matched on up and take a look at other stages in the meanwhile, just to look and see what kind of broadcast we can put on for you. I do know there are a couple of different matches live. There is...
Yeah, Lucifer and Roy are both playing.
Yes, Lucifer and Roy are both playing. I believe we're going to end up needing to go to main stage number 2 as we pop this on out here, and we're going to switch on over to main stage 2 right now, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the middle of a match between Lucifer and Raggett with that bounce deck, but it's not a bounce deck. Wait a minute. Raggett has switched to Phoenix Force.
Whoa. We have a change here from our most viewed contestant so far. Raggett making his way onto multiple games on stream here, doing very well this tournament so far. But we do have a switch to a...
And he's not even the one showing the games. He just happens to be in every single game with different decks. Like, at least we're getting some great gameplay out of it. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I think this might just be a more traditional move list here, because I don't think you typically run 2099 in Phoenix Force. So a more traditional move list here with Hercules, a bounce move perhaps. I see the Beast on the board as well. And it looks like we are seeing one of those small movers packages here with Athena, Kitty Pryde, and maybe a bit of a move package here as well. I see the dagger in hand. The Professor X is an interesting...
Mindscape. This is turn 6.
Oh, yes, Mindscape.
So, yeah,
Mindscape
dagger was absorbed, and so was the Professor X over from Raggett's side. So they are playing that bounce variation, and was just debating about how they can get anything else to happen here. That they are out of time, and Raggett has backed away, doesn't seem to have the nuts on that top deck, and decides, I'm going to go ahead and retreat for one more cube. It's a 10-7 game right now. Lucifer over Raggett.
Wow. So we do have... Okay, so now it looks like Lucifer, judging from the cards we see here, has a bit of a toxic package going on with the Ajax, the Hazmat. We have the Goblin as well, Ravonna Renslayer, reducing the Goblin's cost. Any card under 1 power there. 1 power or less, I should say. And Raggett does appear to be running some move now. Copycat taking that Ghost Spider away. That's a pretty big piece that Raggett is going to be without. One of the main activators in move.
Yeah. Yeah, Ghost Spider, when you're down to having... Like, move has a lot of activators, but a lot of them are low cost. And so when you take away one of those, most of the time they only have 2 or 3 in the deck. So when you take away one of them and you subtract that from their movability, because Ghost Spider and 299 are a massive combination together on turn 6.
Yep, that's gone. The Cloak and Ghost Spider play, but we're going to have to see. We have the Scalers up here with Craven. We have another activator in Hercules, but no move cards coming down yet. You typically won't see too much move. The big cards themselves come down until the later turns, unless, of course, you plan on bouncing them back. That doesn't appear to be Raggett's game plan this time, and potentially going for a Clog play. That's one of my favorite combos in this game, Guest. The Titania Green Goblin combo to lock up your opponent's side and pretty much guarantee you win that lane. How do you like that combo, Guest?
Look, right now, any deck that's going to feature Ajax at the moment is going to be a great deck, in my opinion. I think Ajax is one of the strongest cards in Marvel Snap that not enough people are still diving into, and they're seeing the success, and then they backed away because Arishem steals the spotlight, and then everyone forgets about it again. But to bring it into a competitive situation right here, especially on this move deck, could be fantastic as we watch the Goblin and Titania amazingly fun combo clog up over into Hell's Kitchen as Iron Fist is going to smack over the Human Torch over to the left. It is now a clogged left lane, so even though that it's going to get boosted out from the Human Torch, they can never have more than 3 cards pop into that lane due to the pop-up of Falcon. I did not see Falcon get dropped. That was going to be a huge play because no matter what, even if they had set up a giant move, Hercules was always going to keep that lane to 3 cards, and now they have a way of being able to play around it.
Yeah, the Falcon definitely negates that Titania clog play. I didn't agree with the Goblin, Titania, and the Hercules lane anyway, because it wouldn't have fully clogged them up, because the Hercules would have knocked anything out of that lane. But we do see the Iron Fist coming back down again with the Vulture. This Vulture is going to get big with the Hercules, knocking it back over to the middle lane, boosting up the Kraven, and the Human Torch coming down, potentially setting up for a Heimdall. It doesn't matter. It blocks the Goblin. It blocks the White Widow. And Raggett smartly defends himself from the clog there.
That could have been dangerous if any of those actually clogged down that lane, whether it be the 0 on the Widow's Bite or the Widow's Kiss or that Hobgoblin. Man, I mean, very, very tight match on in here. And I love seeing how both players are trying to play around it because you've got clog elements, but then also very restricted move elements simultaneously. King, what do you think so far?
I believe that this is a massive matchup between the two of them. It's going to come down to who plays their cards better, because Thena, you're missing the Kitty Pryde. Oh no, they've got the Kitty Pryde. So they've got the Kitty Pryde Thena package. It's going to scale. So that's going to be a massive amount of power on their side. But Racket is now, with this move deck that he's got going on, can generate a lot of power. So they're going to be able to get power on both sides. You're just going to have to be able to try and read your opponent and see where they're going to put what. And that's hard. That's hard to do. You know, trying to tell the future is
unless you're
difficult.
running Daredevil, of course. But they Ragged not running Daredevil here, dropping the Iron Fist and the Human Torch. We did see the Kraven die to Danger Room, so no scaling power on the Kraven there. And Lucifer does wind up winning the Castle Blackstone, stealing the dagger as well. Not going to benefit him too much, but at least Lucifer knows that the dagger is no longer a threat to him, as he has some extra energy to play with this turn.
Yeah, and we've got a Hobgoblin on this side. We've got a Green Goblin on this side. They've got the Hobgoblin, Green Goblin, Titania clog aspect. So I'm not sure. I wasn't really catching the beginning of this match. Do they have the Widow's Kiss as well?
White Widow's in
The White
Lucifer's
Widow?
deck, not in the hand at the moment. We see the Green Goblin come over, and the Titania played after the Green Goblin to potentially avoid that Falcon play. Lucifer still winning Castle Blackstone, so 6 energy here on turn 5 and a 7-turn game guess because of the limbo down in that first location.
I love the threat here of just, instead of going for all of the extra power, they're just looking at that copycat possible undoing. Because remember, Copycat took on Dagger in the very beginning of this on her draw. So it's just straight power. And then you have the threat of Nocturne being able to undo that limbo for turn 6, consistently building the world of the unknown. I love this combination of plays because this might force Raggett into a potential another retreat for 1 cube. I would consider this a snap condition personally when you have the indecision of Nocturne, not because you are favored to win it, but because you're up 3 cubes in the final round of the low stakes. So forcing a 2-cube loss versus a 1-cube loss is a big difference when you're moving into high stakes, and they opt to not take the snap as Nocturne drops into there. Here comes the Iron Fist and the Beast to bounce everybody back into the hand. That Beast for that Goblin is a huge play right now as Titania swings over into the other side of Castle Blackstone.
So Lucifer still winning the Castle Blackstone, comfortably playing ahead of curve with that extra energy. Lots of cards, lots of decisions here for Lucifer to make. Looks like they are going to take advantage of the Nocturne, turning the Limbo off, going very hard on the right lane, leaving Athena to solo right, maybe expecting the Titania to bounce back over. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bunch of cards coming down here from Raggett, maybe anticipating that Nocturne turning off the Limbo guest.
Tough calls here. You've got the movement and the disabling. That's a lot of power in the left-hand side there. And the Athena solo is a little scary. I love the White Widow play here, hoping that even if their end goes down, that Widow's Kiss, as long as it's all by itself, is still going to bring Danger Room to -1. So you have the risk of destroy benefiting both players in a very odd way, because you have to try to get that Widow's Kiss to land right now. If it doesn't land, even as just a clog piece, that lane is essentially down. And 18 power into Castle Blackstone, knowing that Titania could switch on back over, that's a solid play thinking about it, because they would have to play only 2 cards to go over in Castle Blackstone if nothing gets played into there. So that's a smart play to kind of go strong on your left-hand side and just hope for the best with that Athena.
Yeah, the Titania is just such a mind-gamey card. You have to figure out, how many cards am I going to play? How many cards are they going to play? How many times you're going to jump back and forth? That is what Lucifer appears to be struggling with right now, and does change it at the last second here. Ajax locked in on the right side, guest.
I guess fearful of that Goblin, and it's going to end up with a Titania that goes back into the favor of Lucifer when, of Raggett when all is said and done. We've got 1, 2, 3. It's going to flip on back twice, go back over to Lucifer. Here comes the Falcon. Flip on over that Green Goblin, which survives in the Danger Room, doesn't get destroyed. Iron Fist is going to get smacked on over. Here's the Titania. Take that a big old giant Human Torch, flip it over into the Danger Room. Watch that Titania once again flip back over to the other side, and Ghost Spider's going to swing it on over for a big 16 power play over in Sinister London, which then brings it back over to Castle Blackstone, and it doubles again and decides to take that lane instead. Either way, with all of the conversions, that Human Torch was the winning factor in both the left and the right lane. Oh, what a combination right there by Garrett. Raggett,
So
Garrett,
wow.
Raggett, Daggett, Raggett, Daggett, Raggett, whatever your name is.
So the Nocturne moving over to the left, changing the Limbo into Sinister London, allowed that second Ghost Spider to pull the Human Torch, again doubling the power, but it wouldn't have mattered. Left or right, Raggett had that one done. Very impressive end of the game there, King.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was chaotic, and that's what you love in Marvel Snap, right? It was he planned out something that got changed with the location, and it still benefited him. It was a throw up, and he did well with it.
Yeah.
So now he's got Ravona down, we've got a Craven down, and we've got another interesting hand. We've got Athena, we've got Kitty Pryde, and he's got his White Widow.
Iron Fist.
Copycat
So
just
one
grabbed?
last move activator again for Raggett. Didn't hurt him too bad last time when you get a double Ghost Spider from a random Sinister London popping up. But
Yeah.
Lucifer with a very, very strong hand here. This is probably the ideal hand you can hope for with this kind of list. You got Ravona down, you have Athena already, you have Kitty Pryde in hand, so you're going to be activating her pretty much every turn the rest of this game, getting her quite big for that 2-drop.
Yeah, you'll be able to put her down. And the question is, do you put her by herself, or do you put her somewhere? Like, he's putting that middle lane is a
Los
destruction
Diablos,
lane,
that's
is
going
it
to get rid
not?
of either Miniaturized Lab or Oscorp's Tower. Not really any other options where you could play right now. You don't
Okay.
want to give the opponent Athena, and you can't play in that right lane. But there you go.
No.
Los Diablos destroying the left location while Miniaturized Lab remains locked down.
Widow's Kiss
Strong
right
advantage
there
here
in the
for Lucifer.
clog of the Los Diablo space is a big interference play that I think gives, with 4 cubes currently already on the line, even at a retreat state, puts a real damper on the situation as we get some extra power. And a Hercules over in your left-hand lane going into turn number 5 with still the lockdown of that miniaturized lab at the moment. And a Hobgoblin on the top deck. Do you play both left and just, yeah, I love it. Look at all of the clogs, ladies and gentlemen. There's going to be a really difficult situation for Raggett, in my opinion.
Yeah, Move does not want to see one of those lanes locked down this way. You want to have all your lanes to operate so you can get max procs on your movers, which we haven't seen yet. I imagine we're going to see something coming down here from Raggett, but the operating space is going to be minimized here with only one goblin going over. The green goblin going to stay on the left side because Raggett fills up left with a dagger, pulls it to the middle lane with Ghost Spider, proccing the Craven, getting good value on the dagger.
Yeah.
9 power, and then the Falcon to clean up mid, bring the Ghost Spider back. Advantage Lucifer on priority, but Raggett with a good move there to potentially stave off chaos.
This is a huge turn. There are the final 7 cubes for both players on the line at the moment. This could be, if both commit, this is an automatic knockout moment right here, and they're going to go large potentially with everything on the left-hand side, looking at a possible forfeit. I don't know if that's necessarily the play because you're going to take 3 from that Widow's Kiss back into the lane. It's only a 14 to technically a 13 situation right now, and you don't have a lot of power. That goblin really is hurting in the ruins, and knowing that you have a miniaturized lab to work with, you are looking at one lane staying pretty clean right now. We do know that they have that Ghost Spider, so they can pull a ramper over into the miniaturized lab, and I think it looks like they're banking on that specifically being what happens in the ruins, is what it seems to be, as they keep putting into the Los Diablos space, because they keep putting higher power into the ruins as a competitive lane. Oh, this is a tough one, man. This is a tough call for 7 cubes.
I don't know if I would stick this out for 7. These locations were not the best here. The last card played by Raggett was Falcon, so they would have to play something else if they wanted to do Ghost Spider to get some maximum value there. Probably want to try and get no Iron Fist though to get into the Hercules lane. Yeah, Raggett has to retreat there.
And Raggett retreats.
Wow.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that was worth playing out.
That was a hard
Better to lose
retreat.
4 than lose your tournament life. So Raggett stays alive, forfeiting 4 cubes there. Lucifer in a very strong, commanding position right now, up 7-3.
Wow. So we've got the Athena, we've got the Ajax, and we've got a Hobgoblin. Now, Hobgoblin is used for the clog. Ajax, we have, what other negatizers do they have?
Can we trademark that word, negatizers?
Do they have?
I love that.
Negatizers, yes. One of the negatizers in Lucifer's deck is Hazmat, I believe. I don't know if we've seen the Hazmat yet.
I was going to say we haven't seen Hazmat. That's why I was curious. What else is making Ajax?
I have to imagine there's a Hazmat in here. Of course, the Widow's Kiss will give it 1 proc, but you're probably not going to run Ajax unless you have other ways of activating him. So I would imagine it's just the Hazmat, which is enough oftentimes. You really don't need all that much outside of the Hazmat to get the Ajax going.
No, you don't. But that's what I was curious to see what the other thing was, because we haven't seen anything that is giving more props to Ajax. So I was just curious as to what else Lucifer has to make
the Ajax
work. Because you have a lot.
The Ajax hasn't been much of a factor yet from what we've seen in this match. It's mostly been the Kitty and Athena scaling packages here. Raggett getting that Hercules out on 3 pretty consistently. So that's good for Raggett here. Copycat stole. I missed what Copycat stole. Did you happen to catch that, Guest?
No, I didn't catch it, unfortunately. But what I do know is, as you were talking about the Ajax piece in particular, I think Ajax at 5/7 for the stat line justifies itself, even if there is no effect that happens, or you could wait for a possible negative effect that's going to organically happen from any of the locations. You have just the Widow's Kiss and Hazmat, and that's it. And Hazmat Ajax is such a strong combination that you can put that 2-card combo, still stick it in there with no concerns, just like you would do with your Sentry and a Nihilist package, knowing you could just forfeit one lane to do it as well. I think it's a solid card as is, as we get that White Widow with the Widow's Kiss on the draw here on this turn. And now you've got to be looking at trying to figure out how they're going to clear out the Rickety Bridge on this turn to maybe, keyword, maybe, save Dagger from the feat of defeat.
Yeah, Dagger in a very precarious position here on the Rickety Bridge by her lonesome. Not the last card played.
Copycat
Yes,
is
Copycat
Craven,
did
by the
steal
way.
Craven, so we don't have to worry about that scalar for Lucifer. But how will you save the Dagger here? I don't think Lucifer is going to be kind and move that Nocturne over to Rickety Bridge to try and save it. Oh, Raggett with a Professor X play to save the Dagger mid.
I
Very
forgot
smart
about that
play
from
there.
round 1.
Yes, we have not seen the Professor X make an appearance since that round 1, and Dagger is safe and sound on that middle location now because of Charles Xavier guest.
Going into this turn here to try and save himself, he's now really got to look at where am I going to be able to go over the top here? Is Nocturne going to move and give a flip over into Wakanda? Do I need to place some risk over into Stark Tower and try to undo some of the chaos there as well? There's a lot of uncertainty here. And Lucifer, I think Lucifer is probably actually in the best case scenario, retreating for 2.
I would think so as well. I mean, it's going to be hard. You can pretty easily win right if you're Lucifer, I would say. You're not going to be able to get a whole lot more power in that right lane if you're Raggett. So I would imagine Raggett probably goes hard on the left lane if possible, but Professor X being in that middle lane does make moving things a bit more tricky. We're going to have to see here if Lucifer just goes... I don't know if that's going to be enough. 12 power left. Do we think Raggett can get 12 power on the left lane?
Man. 9.
I think you got to go harder left than right if you're Raggett.
Yeah. Let's see what he decides to do. The time is going to run on out here. Here comes an Ajax and Kitty Pryde. Ajax going to be just a 7. That's going to give us a 14 when all is said and done. And Heimdall's going to shimmy everybody over. Heimdall's going to lose the Stark Tower. The Craven ramp up is going to happen on the Copycat. Dagger's going to shoot up a bit too. It's still going to be 14. Hercules bumps over the Ghost Spider as well. And when all is said and done, the tiebreaker comes down in favor of Lucifer as a 3-5 advantage after the destructions of the Rickety Bridge means that Lucifer has taken down today's showcaser in Raggett.
The Hercules betrayed him. He really wanted that Ghost Spider to go over to the right lane, but it went to the left. That was a bold play there from Raggett on the Hail Mary Heimdall King.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like say, you go big or you go home, right? He went big, and now he goes home. Unfortunately, it was an amazing play. He took the gamble, but it did not pay off.
Tough break there for Raggett, but he played spectacularly. I wonder if maybe bounce was the better play. I wonder why he switched it up to move. The bounce seemed to be working quite well for him. But
it could have just been the fact that he's played 4 times and been seen 4 times, and he wanted to change up his deck, knowing that his opponent has probably seen what he's been playing, right?
Yep.
So that is probably why he just changed it up a bit. That's the thing with casting tournaments is if you're being broadcast, the opponents know what you're playing. Because if they're watching the stream or catching what's going on, if you're playing the same deck, you played the same deck 3 turns in a row. So they were probably expecting him to play that bounce deck. And so he switched it up. And unfortunately, it just didn't come through for him.
Didn't, but that is how it goes in tournament. So we are How many games do we have left here in our top round 3?
Let me check.
Exciting drum roll.
We're waiting on Lucifer and Raggett, and it just finished. So that is all 4 matches finished. So we're just waiting for the confirmation on the Lucifer Raggett bracket. So that will put Lucifer ahead. So it will be Lucifer versus Roy and Molwyn versus Whimsic. That is our next.
So we're into the semifinals. Our top 4 contestants remaining. Lucifer with a very strong win over Raggett there. Haven't seen the other contestants, but I would say Lucifer in quite a good position here to possibly take this all, guest.
I 100% agree, and we are going to be setting up those matches to showcase them for you here on the production side. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break, get these matches set on up, and be right back as we head into the semifinals here of King's Clash 3. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, stick around. We'll be right back. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are here. We are back. We are getting into the semifinals. And we are also entering August, which means we are going to have some exciting new things coming to Marvel Snap. Right, Parry?
Yes, the Young Avengers season starts this coming Tuesday. Kate Bishop, the season pass card, one of the more exciting season pass cards we've had. I think a lot of people are really looking forward to Kate Bishop, a Hawkeye staple with all of her different arrows. Seems like a very Nico-esque type card. So what do you think about Kate Bishop, King?
I think she's going to be fantastic. If you haven't bought the season pass, this is definitely one to purchase. She has 4 different arrow packs that will benefit your gameplay. And yeah, there would be no reason not to have her. Like you said, very Nico-esque. And she's going to be, she gets 2 arrows every time you play her. You put her down, you beast her back, you put her down again, you've got 4 arrows. So that's, you can't ask for more than that. It's going to be a great time with the Young Avengers. The one I'm looking forward to is the Broken Wiccan. You know, I love my little zoo decks, and putting out Wiccan, that's going to be fun. And here we go. We are in it. Squeaky versus Molwyn. And yeah, this is going to be our first semifinals.
We saw Squeaky rocking that Sarah control list with the toxic package here. It looks like that's what he's sticking with. Molwyn going for Jeff Nocturne. Hard to tell what they're playing just from those 2 cards. I feel like they're in the majority of decks these days. Just 2 very solid staples at their cost.
100% agreed with you there.
Yes,
I would not be surprised to see a
staple
Namora
cards.
play even too.
Yeah, those 2 cards do work quite well with Namora. One of the few decks you'll see Colossus make an appearance in, because that power cannot be reduced from Namora. You can just keep pumping them up with Namora, Wong, Odin, all that stuff, and Colossus would not lose any of that power in case of a Shadow King or a Shang-Chi or anything like that. But probably not going to see Colossus here, guys.
I was about to say, Parry, I love you to death, but let's be honest here. Are we really going to see Colossus make an appearance in competitive Marvel Snap? Do you really think it actually could appear right now? I mean, granted, it'd be great for the Danger Room, but I'd be floored happily to see that happen.
I love my big steel metal boy guest. We don't get to ever talk about Colossus. Give me a slight window to get in there and talk about the big steel man from Arushka. But we're probably not going to see it here. We're seeing Man-Thing come down on Squeaky's side. I'm liking this list a lot. This is kind of a list I want to try after this tournament, to be honest. We see Hope Summers and Kitty come down. Again, one of these small ball decks. I think that's the term we see thrown around pretty often. Small ball with those scalers, the Athena, the Kitty, the Hope Summers, all that stuff.
We now lead into a Sarah in the middle lane as Molwyn's working with 6 energy here on turn 5. Squeaky's looking for reduction also on top of it. Then you've got the flexibility of being able to move over that Maximus in Sarah with some unpredictability, even though I probably wouldn't personally move that Maximus. That's a great amount of power secured into an insecure lane. There's a lot that can happen here, but we get a snap from Molwyn, I believe, as we check the circles. Yep, it was Molwyn who snapped here on turn 5 here in round 1. Interesting.
So we're at least seeing some snaps now, some early game snaps trying to make you pay for information. I like it. We're going to have to see what comes of it. Nocturne can take care of the danger room, so I wouldn't be too worried about moving from there. We see the Sarah come down for Squeaky. 3 cards from Molwyn here. It's Copycat, which appears to
and
be
it's the Enchantress!
Wow. Copycat stealing the Enchantress, turning the man thing off. A late game Angela coming down for Molwyn here, but lots of extra energy to work with as well, Guest.
Big Copycat steal right there, getting that Enchantress to undo the chaos that's already happening with Man-Thing. And we still have the flexibility of seeing Nocturne also move simultaneously to undo the double on reveal. The question is, though, while you're sitting at a 4-cube Risker and you've got Sarah on the board on top of it, do you have enough in all of these small, like you said, those small ball cards that you can scale over the top? You do have the Hazmat Luke Cage package. You have the ability of having Hazmat proc potentially twice, but this is a scary moment if you go down that path because they're looking at Typhoid, they're looking at Luke Cage, they're looking at Hazmat. This is a large amount of power to get on turn 6, and it looks like that's exactly the direction they're thinking about going.
Molwyn's got 8 energy to work with here. Played 2 cards on Hope Summer. I'm sorry, 7 energy here. No, 8 energy. I'm right.
8 energy.
8 energy
Yep.
here. 2 cards on Hope Summers on turn 6, so that's 8 energy. What's the big card going to be, though? How is Molwyn going to make up for all of this power that Squeaky can drop? Do you change the Camartage? Do you change the Danger Room with Nocturne?
I think
If
you
I was
change the
Molwyn-
Camartage. Oh,
Nope,
we've
it
got
looks
all
like
of the
goes to the
movement
Danger
all
Room
over the place.
instead.
Watch it. Here goes that Nocturne into the Baxter building for an extra 3 power all
Whoa.
over the board. Camartage stays on there, though, gets the double reduction off of the Hazmat with the Luke Cage undoing it for the side of Squeaky. Here comes the Typhoid Mary. 16 is all there, and then Red Guardian drops down a couple of power as it tries to go off twice, but the Luke Cage says, nope, you're just going to turn off an ability that's already been used. Here's the Angela ramp. Here's the Captain Marvel on top. Get the extra pieces for Angela, and it is enough to keep the lead in Camartage. Molwyn takes 4 cubes off of Squeaky to start us off here in round number 1.
The Baxter build. Yep,
Baxter
that was the difference
building.
maker right there. Nocturne, the randomness can be all you need sometimes. The Baxter building saves Molwyn.
I'm trying to think because he was up
Wow.
10-4,
Yeah,
3-0. That would have,
eight-power
yeah, it
swing.
would have been a tiebreaker, and he would have lost if it was not for Baxter building.
Baxter saved.
But remember,
That's right.
before you get into this, King, just
Baxter building saved him.
remember, Nocturne giveth, but Nocturne also taketh away. Wait for it.
Oh, absolutely. I am on the former of that. I am always on the former of Nocturne taking away.
I tend to try to not move Nocturne unless I absolutely have to, because the chaos she can cause can be often detrimental, sometimes as it is beneficial. In that case, it was for Molwyn, worked out swimmingly there, and we do have New York popping up yet again, so we're going to see some more movement on this final turn. New York being one of those tricky mind game locations.
Location
And now
matching
with
is not real.
Luke Cage in
It's not
hand,
real.
he's putting Lizard into Jotunheim.
Yes, we have the Lizard into Jotunheim there. We have the Luke Cage to deal with that negative power. Time Theater making a second Lizard. So 2 beefy Lizards here, that cute Ryan Chibi variant. Those cards are going to be going down in power, but not for long with Mr. Cage in hand. Hope Summer's coming down from Molwyn, setting up for these big final turns. Both of these decks with some big final turn potential in the cost reduction from Sarah, as well as the additional energy being generated from Hope Summer's guest.
I actually don't like this play that they're taking on right now, which is Man-Thing over into Time Theater. I think that with the indecision of New York existing and thinking about moving all of those cards into New York, I think restricting New York was a huge missed opportunity there by Squeaky as we get Gwenpool making her appearance on top of the Hope Summers, getting some extra energy, some extra power, a little bit of everything for everybody here as they top deck a U.S. agent. And we now see a snap come down from Squeaky, feeling incredibly secure about this play.
Now, don't forget, guys, just because New York is on the board doesn't mean Squeaky can't move the Man-Thing as well. So the mind game comes from, do you move the Man-Thing over into New York, or do you keep it right there? So
True.
the mind games will be a big factor. The Sarah, I really like all these strong 2-drops that you can play out for 1 on the final turn with Sarah. US Agent
Yeah.
can often be a very impactful final turn play. Shadow King, of course, we know what he's capable of. So, and also being able to play out potentially all 4 of these cards in hand right now for the cost reduction from Sarah. I'm really liking this build from Squeaky here. Although Molwen with the advantage, 2 cards coming down on the Hope Summers lane. Another Hope Summers for extra energy here. So that's going to be an additional 3 energy on this final turn for Molwen. And Squeaky, of course, with the Sarah cost reduction. What's it going to be? The mind games begin, guest.
Priority being in the favor of Molwen is a huge miss for Molwen.
Yes.
He was trying to throw it, I think, by the movement of that Jeff, but it did not pay off. It did not pay off. We want to see that happen. And now, look, you can essentially get almost the entire hand removed from Squeaky. You can play down the Luke Cage, the Gladiator, and 2 more cards. The question is, which one do you not play? And it looks like they're opting as the Shadow King being the I can't play here card.
Yeah, that's the smart move. None of these cards have scaled up just yet, so I don't think the Shadow King is the right play comparatively. He moves the Man-Thing over, so if those 3-cost cards do move to the left, they're going to get hit by that negative power from Man-Thing. Luke Cage, of course, going to bring back those lizards in the middle lane, so that's going to be 10 power mid, and then a whole bunch of power from Gladiator, Maximus, and US Agent on the right. So this is looking pretty solid here from Squeaky. I don't know if Molwen, even with all that extra energy, 9 energy, will be able to overcome that power difference here.
I'm excited to see which cards Molwen decides to move because of that confusion that New York likes to bring. It's one of the reasons I personally detest that location, because it's so much uncertainty on moments exactly like this. When you've got such an influential card on the board like Man-Thing, that could ruin your entire game plan or supplement your entire game plan all in one decision of to move or not to move. That is the question, as well as can we get this game back here for turn 6? It's a cliffhanger, ladies and gentlemen. It's an unknown. It's a reboot. It's a hope for the best. It's a reconnect. It's a do you have it moment. And are you willing to donate some of that 10,000 gold you're sitting on, good sir? I'll take some of that if you've got, if you're hanging on too much of it, really. I mean, I'll gladly take some of that 10K gold. Click the reconnect button. Let's see it. Don't leave me hanging. It is loading. This is that moment, ladies and gentlemen, and we see the game trying to regenerate. Are we going to see the movements or just the final end result of chaos?
Catching up. We're catching up. Oh, the result is in.
Result. We get the result. Nothing moved out of the time theater, and only the Man-Thing did, which means when everything resolves, it leads to Squeaky winning right there in moving on to the next round.
Madness. I saw 0 cubes for both players for a moment, and I was like, wait, how did that happen? But there you go, an evening up of the score. 4 cubes in Squeaky's favor there, taking off Molwen. Unfortunate we had the disconnect, but a big hurdle for Molwen to overcome from Squeaky there.
Very risky.
Wow. Yeah, I thought the game was over. It was showing us two sets of 0 cubes, and I was like, what?
Yep.
What happened here? And now we're sitting at a tie game, and Squeaky and Molwen now have a struggle on their hands because they both know exactly what each other has. And who can outpower who?
And
That's
there was
the
a
question,
huge play there
Parry.
from Squeaky, revealing one of those unknowns that we hadn't seen yet. We haven't seen Molwen's Gladiator, typically a very big surprise card in Cube Stealer, but Gladiator said, nah, you ain't going to do much here this game, getting him out of the deck and killing him hard. So we have one of the surprise cards gone from Molwen as he plays out the Nocturne onto the Angela lane. Decent start here for Molwen, getting that Angela out early.
And then the Man-Thing is going to hurt everything in that lane. So, we got Gwenpool there on Chrisman Cosmos, boosting up. And see, the boosting actually can be undone by Shadow King. So that is one of the things they have to keep in mind. when they play down those boosted Gwenpool cards.
Gwenpool cards certainly susceptible to Shadow King reducing that power back to 0, but it's going to be once again a battle of priority here. Can Squeaky properly throw Prio in order to take advantage of those buffed Gwenpool cards coming down? Of course, the Angela lane is probably going to be the Shadow King target, but no New York this game, so we're not going to see any mind games on the final turn, at least not yet. Maybe
not yet. Key word there.
Yes.
Not yet. You'd still never know. Something could happen. We could have a Nocturne, bring it on in. We don't know. But Enchantress is going to undo the the negative effect from that Lizard. Nobody's going to capitalize on the White Hot Room entirely, but a lot of indecision is on the board due to the floatability of Nocturne and Jeff. Now, is Typhoid Mary a strong enough play here to try and secure the Crimson Cosmos, knowing that there are 2 movable cards, or do you just go with a play it only exclusively in your left and center?
If I'm Squeaky, I'm out of here. We didn't get the turn 5 Sarah. That is one of the keys to this deck, having that miracle turn 6. So I think without the Sarah on board, you're not able to play the Typhoid and the Luke Cage together, so you can't get rid of that benefit or that detriment from your Man-Thing, and we do see Squeaky locking in that retreat there. Smart move,
yeah,
only 1 cube.
agreed.
I don't think that's the wrong decision at all. Yes.
Smart retreat right there.
No,
a lot of uncertainty. Knock out the cube. Continue on. You're only going to take off 1. It's a 6-5 advantage right now going into the next round. And keep an eye, and this is something we constantly preach in every single tournament, keep an eye on the cube equity as you're going into rounds 3 and 4, because even an odd can be the difference between 4 games to knock you out or 3 games to knock you out. If you happen to be on that 7 or 8 or 6, it's always going to be a very close moment. So keep an eye on that as we get into the next round, and cube management gets even tighter when we get closer to the high stakes.
The greatest battle, guess, here seems to be between the connection. It's the game, unfortunately, having a hard time staying connected here between Mole and Squeaky. Their energy, their aura is creating such an intense environment that the game cannot maintain its connection as we get into our next round here, King.
And they got 2 gladiators. They're given 2 gladiators by the Time Theater, so that's the potential. Oh, and a Luke's Bar. So if they can bounce the Gladiator and Luke's Bar and not hit anything higher than 8, they could take out a good chunk of their deck.
I don't think there's anything in this list that is above 8, right?
That's what I was about to say.
So Gladiator could just work as a big mill card here. Playing the Gladiator on the right first. He does have that second Gladiator that could be a surprise. Also, Hazmat on Luke's Bar could do some damage as well. Let's see what the Gladiator pulls here. Cosmo, first appearance of the good dog. He goes bye-bye. So another surprise card for Molwyn taken out with that Gladiator intel as he drops down the Nocturne on the left lane, guest.
I think this is a moment where, as we talked about, it is currently a 6-5 advantage for Squeaky, which means if Squeaky retreat, it's a free retreat for Squeaky on 1, because no matter what, he would be at 2 games if he retreats on 1, or if he loses 2 cubes, he'd still have to have 2 games to try to get the knockout. So there is a snap equity moment that we should end up seeing at some point here, as Hope Summers goes down into Washington, D.C., gives an extra energy over to Molwyn, who's now working with 6 energy here on turn 5. I'm curious to see if they go for the mill, and they don't go for the mill, and they can't do the Hazmat repeat either. Wow. They just have to put down that Sarah, get the advantage on that lane, as Gwenpool goes on top of Hope Summers, and Kitty Pryde puts us up to 8 energy working into the final turn here for Molwyn. Who's going to be able to take down Luke's Bar is the question, in my opinion.
Well, I don't think there's any card in Squeaky's deck that could go on to Luke's Bar to win that. There's no movement cards from what I can tell. So it's going to be a question of, will Molwyn move the Nocturne into Luke's Bar to change it, and the cards that Squeaky plays will remain, because the move does happen first before any cards are revealed? Or is the mind game to not move the Nocturne and just try and win tiebreaker here, both of you giving up that middle location? Because all these cards, if Nocturne doesn't move, could bounce right back in to Squeaky's hand. So it is a huge mind game here, guess.
Yeah. A scary mind game at that. Again, this is one of the benefits and why so many competitive players try to fit Nocturne into any and every deck, is for moments exactly like this. You're not sure what's going to happen. Do they move the Nocturne? They do move the Nocturne into the Luke's bar. Flip it on over into the danger room. Get ready. You've got a Hazmat. Hazmat goes down in the danger room. You've got a Maximus.
Ooh.
And Maximus goes down in the danger room too. Could it be 3 for 3? We know Gladiator's going to destroy something. It's a Captain Marvel, but does he survive? He does. He does survive. Juggernaut knocks nothing out of Washington, D.C. Red Guardian reduces 2 more power away. And the danger room goes in favor of Molwyn big time there. Man, when RNG kicks you in the butt, it is a dangerous situation, and it really was there in the danger room for Squeaky.
Molwyn out big time there with the Red Guardian not dying to the danger room. If it did, Squeaky would have won 5-4 on danger room, but unfortunately for Squeaky, my least favorite location in the game bites him in the Tuchus, King.
Yeah, the training room for the X-Men is very dangerous. And unfortunately, Squeaky learned that here today. Getting 2 out of 3 of his cards, and we are trying to reconnect. 2 or 3 of his cards destroyed. And yeah, unfortunately, that's just the way it goes.
Such a cruel mistress, yes. She definitely has favorites. And I am not one of them most of the time. Neither was Squeaky in that scenario. As we get into the high stakes round here, locked in for 2 cubes each. Squeaky on his last remaining 3 cubes. Molwyn with a pretty comfortable lead, up 6-3 here.
Yeah, he's gotten his lead. We've got Eternity range, so he's going to try and put a rock on the other side of the deck, or on the other side of the board with his Maximus. We've got Luke Cage. If he's got his Sarah, he's got his Luke Cage, he's got his Typhoid Mary. So he's got his combo. He's got his winning combo there for the end of the match. So we just got to see where other power gets put as a Ms. Marvel gets entered into his hand from the hub.
One of those cards that was very often played in lists just like this for that reason. Having the ability to play out multiple cards on the final turn to fill out those Miss Marvel lanes, that sudden burst of power in both the right and left lanes from Miss Marvel can go a long way in winning you the game. Let's see if he's able to take advantage of it here, as this game is just struggling to stay connected. They are fighting themselves and the internet at the moment, guest. But we got back in pretty easy here.
Luke Cage going on down with the Ms. Marvel on the board.
The game is lying to us, saying this is turn 1 right now. Clearly, that is not the case, as the Luke Cage can come down. This should be turn 3, as we see the Rock coming down on Squeaky's side. The Nocturne, of course, the Nocturne making such a difference in this matchup for Molwyn. Really the MVP so far of the game for Molwyn.
Scary moment here to see the Nocturne in the center, though, because it could create some... Right now, the biggest enemy for Squeaky, I think, is going to be those token generation locations. You see Monster Island, Savage Land, another Shadowland, just because, you know, that kind of stuff. That's what I think is one of the scariest things right now. And that surprise Miss Marvel, if I were them, I'd probably push all in here.
Let's see the Gwenpool for Molwyn, the Miss Marvel for Squeaky. Almost certainly a turn 5 Sarah coming here from Squeaky. Let's see what Molwyn's going to be able to do. No Hope Summers, which has been one of the big difference makers here, for Molwyn. Getting that extra energy and having the ability to keep up with all the cards coming down for Squeaky, thanks to the Sarah cost reduction. We'll have to see what Molwyn's able to do without that Hope Summers here. Unless, of course, get the Hope Summers and the Kitty Pride, generate a little bit extra energy on turn 5 here, guest.
We could see that probably into the hub, but I think the Miss Marvel is probably a scarier card than it really needs to be right now for Molwyn. There are ways to dance around it. We do know they sit on that Enchantress, and it's a matter of showing which threat would you rather eliminate, the toxicity threat via the Luke Cage or the power threat via the Ms. Marvel on the 2 different lanes. Very, very tough decision right here on trying to figure out who to take out, as Sarah's going to drop herself over into the hub. And we see from Mulwin the Kitty Pryde to bounce over there, plus a Captain Marvel with a little bit of flexible mobility. With Gladiator on top, now you've got, as King was talking about earlier, you've got your combo. You've got everything you need. And
Yeah.
I think if I'm sitting in the boat of Squeaky, I'm looking at that U.S. agent as a stellar defense piece for the Shadowland to prevent that Captain Marvel, from being a threat over in its movement potential.
Huge move as well with Mulwin having priority here. That's exactly what Squeaky wanted. Able to counter all of the things that Mulwin's able to do here. I would probably go a U.S. agent on the left, Shadow King mid, and then probably Gladiator Lizard on the right. What do you think about that play, Guest?
I'm personally leaning into getting that, instead of the man thing, getting that U.S. agent down, because you're trying to mitigate what Captain Marvel can do, but instead they're looking at just spread as much power wide and sacrifice the mid. Shadow King, as much as he's wanted to get a lot of play today, he has not gotten too much play in an effective way. So looking at going +3 instead of +5 by playing the Gladiator in the left, that's a little scary and a little dangerous.
Also would reduce the Miss Marvel buff, because
That's what I'm saying.
Luke
Yeah,
Cage
instead of
being a
8, it
3.
would be a 3, basically.
Yeah. And game
We
again,
may have a
struggling to
scary
keep up
tournament
here.
moment here as they make their final decisions. Time is running out. Getting those bonuses at the last second. They take the 3 over on the left-hand side to be able to get a whopping 19 maybe on the right. You're almost out of time, Squeaky. Don't scare us like this.
This looks a bit better here, going tall in both the left and right lanes, giving up on
Here
mid.
we go.
The
Nocturne gives a Crimson Cosmos. Cosmo goes over into the hub. Here's a Master Mold filling up the hand just a tad, and Crimson Cosmos is going to reveal out a Kitty Pryde, which is going to be 7 power. It's not going to be enough in the Crimson Cosmos. And Gladiator not needing to pull a card, just allowing that boost from the Ms. Marvel to come on down. Captain Marvel drops down just a tad, makes her whoosh just to say she did. Takes off 3 cubes, and ladies and gentlemen, we are at a 3-3 tie officially here going into the next round of Mulwin versus Squeaky.
You can't ask for a better semifinals. Down to a tie, 3 cubes apiece, and now we're heading into high stakes.
3
And
cubes on the line,
Elysium.
so
Oh,
Elysium
man.
acting as the Sarah. Squeaky doesn't even need to waste turn 5 playing it now, or he could and just have an explosive final turn with all that cost reduction. Same could be said for Mulwin, though. I would not be surprised if we don't see many cards played until these final turns. We do have the Gladiator coming down for Squeaky. Guaranteed kill. Bye-bye, Carol Danvers. She's gone. The Gladiator taking out one of Mulwin's stronger pieces here as Black Vortex revealed to be the final location king.
Wow. So he's going to have everything and anything to play. He hasn't drawn his Sarah, but if he draws his Sarah to play it, everything will be free and he can empty his hand.
The Maximus turns into leader, bringing Hope Summers onto Squeaky's side. So even extra energy now. Solid Black Vortex pull there from Squeaky, Angela, Hope, and Kitty. So the full package from Mulwin's side on turn 3. They're going to have very good opportunities to do some damage in these final turns, Guest. And there
We have Sarah coming down on 4. There's no question they don't. And that Juggernaut from Daily Bugle is probably going to be... That could be the game winner in and of itself. Watch as turn 5 fills the entire board, and then just figure out where you want to miscontrol everybody. This is a really, really stellar combination right now as we get our top decks here going into the final turn. And it's a Shang-Chi.
If I'm Squeaky, I don't play a single card this turn. I do everything possible to try and let Mulwin take priority. You can play all of your cards on the final turn with Sarah and Elysium.
Why man thing on Sarah? Why man thing on Sarah?
Because man thing doesn't affect Sarah? US agent affects Sarah.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm looking at Black Vortex, right? I'm looking at Black Vortex knowing that there's going to be a big card that flips on over there. You're going to have a lot of power, and instead they're just taking the Enchantress and throwing it out there. I'm a little scared of this combination. Watch the final turn as you get the Kitty Pryde bouncing on top of the Angela, getting that Hope Summers to play. Red Guardian comes on down, removes the benefit of that Sarah for the final turn. Here comes a Nocturne, which is going to be able to maybe undo the damage potential of the Black Vortex, and now it comes down to RNG. Do you flip Black Vortex with Nocturne or not?
Crazy turn 5 there. A bunch of plays I don't necessarily agree with. The Red Guardian does take out the Sarah, but the original Sarah ability pretty much still in effect because of Elysium. So a pretty net negative there.
Yeah.
The throwing out of the Enchantress just for some stats. I would have tried to throw Pryo there if I was Squeaky. I don't know why he was going for Pryo so hard. Your deck is based on countering your opponent, and having priority here, I guess for a Juggernaut play could be potentially what they were going for.
I guess they're trying to take advantage of Juggernaut, saying, yeah, exactly that I have something you wish you had right now, which is priority and Juggernaut. And by flying as many cards as possible over into the right helps to secure the win there in the mid. But there's a lot of power needing to also stack into the right if they don't convert over via the Black Vortex and they just leave Nocturne in the center. We get a reconnect and we get to see the final result here in just a moment. Let's see if they get the final iteration. Did they move that Nocturne?
The suspense is killing me. The turn is not resolved yet. Okay.
And the turn is now going to be resolved. All right, here we go, y'all. Juggernaut is down into the Daily Bugle for protection.
I don't know about this.
Nocturne goes to the left into the Elysium. Goes into the left. Here comes the Juggernaut to smack over one card over into the Black Vortex. The Black Vortex is going to stay on in, and now Lizard gets its reduction because 4 cards come on down. It will go back up because the Shang-Chi is going to swing over to Strange Academy instead, get hit by that U.S. agent. And Destroyer! Destroyer comes on down the Black Vortex. The danger. Oh, the humanity, and Mulwin is destroyed by Destroyer.
And
RNG giveth and RNG taketh away, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, wow.
Heartbreaking loss there for
Wow.
Wow, indeed.
That's one of those things that as a streamer, anytime you play into Black Vortex, you always see chat going, Destroyer, Destroyer, Destroyer. And that time it actually winds up coming true and losing a big game.
Wow.
Wow.
He had the game won.
Juggernaut, man.
Ended it.
A lot of things happening on those final couple of turns there. A wild sequence of events, but that is Marvel Snap in a nutshell right there, guest.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. This is hands down one of those heartbreak moments in competitive Marvel Snap where you know the risks you take, and that was a choice 100% on their end. They decided to not move their Nocturne over into Black Vortex. They rolled the dice on a location that has given some amazing content. I'll never forget when Black Vortex came on out. My first match, first card, turn 1, play it on down, Galactus. And you know what? The Vortex choice was a big risk, and it had about a 4% chance to hit Destroyer in that moment. And unfortunately, that's exactly what we had to watch happen. But it does mean that we do get to potentially see this Toxic Sarah deck move on into maybe even taking down the entire thing.
Yep.
A moment of silence for Bullwin and the Destroyer. But we are now into our finals. It is Mulwin Whimsic, sorry, versus Roy. That is our final match. So I will put it out to both of you to think over while you compete. Do you take on the double down challenge? I will double your winnings if you can beat me. If you cannot, you will go home with nothing. Think about that. And just to be fair, I sent my deck to both Parry and Guest early this morning. So it's not like I've been watching the tournament thinking, oh, well, I'm going to pick this and I'm going to pick that and I'm going to pick this to try and beat you.
Nope.
No. My deck has been chosen. It has been selected. So it has been sitting there in the back. And we will be back after these messages with our finals. Good gravy.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time. It is time. It is time. It is time. We are heading into the final match, ladies and gentlemen. Are you ready, King?
I am ready.
I'm ready too.
All right, let's do
Here we
this
go.
then.
Roy and Squeaky are starting it off here. The final match. We are seeing Roy's perspective this time for some connection issue purposes. Roy looks like he is rocking a very similar list to the one we just saw Moy using last game, with of course the small ball package, Kitty Pryde, Hope Summers, Captain Marvel, Juggernaut. We see Vision in this list as well.
Vision's a fun call.
And we do see Squeaky playing that same list he's been playing all tournaments, seemingly. The Toxic Sarah Control, our final location revealed to be Subterranea. So going to make drawing those key pieces a bit difficult for both players.
So we've got lots going on here. He's got Jeff and Kitty, and that looks like Gwenpool, Vision, and Juggernaut. And I can't quite tell what the first card is. Captain Marvel. Wow. Okay, so he's got a lot of movement going on this deck. A lot that can happen here. So
no Angelo Athena yet for Roy, but the Hope Summers on 3 is a good call. Squeaky throwing out the Maximus early. I don't know how I feel about these early Maximus plays, Guest. I feel like Maximus is one of those cards you want to save for that 1/6 play after you play your Sarah on the final turn. What do you think about these early Maximus?
I very often feel like if you're choosing to play your Maximus this early, regularly, it's specifically for priority. If they're trying to keep the priority going into the later matches, it should be a telling case to understanding what the rest of the deck is also going to do the remainder of the match. We do know that with Dream Dimension on the board, they're losing the advantage of being able to get down that Sarah. So I think this is trying to keep ahead of what would be an awful potential curve, considering that a lot of Squeaky's deck is focused around that big turn 5 Sarah leading into a flood of cards afterwards.
Excellent point there with the Dream Dimension. That is one of the biggest downsides to this type of list, is you can't get that Sarah out unless, of course, you're able to turn away that Dream Dimension. We'll see if Squeaky's able to do that. I don't remember there being any location changing in the deck. I don't think Squeaky was running Nocturne that previous match, but we'll have to find out, as Roy going for some big energy here to mitigate the Dream Dimension by playing all 3 cards on Hope Summers.
Get 1, 2, 3. That'll bring, 8 energy going into the next turn if they plop with that, unless if they feel like they just need a little bit of security, knowing that Hala is going to create some confusion, because I don't think either player is going to take that risk when there's no cards down in the first 3 turns. So I like the original play. I think they might be thinking about going back to it, but instead just go straight up power. They're going to go for Gwenpool, put extra power into the hand. With the Dream Dimension, though, even with turn 5, they still will be able to do Jeff and Kitty Pryde onto Subterranea as well. As Squeaky decides to retreat, and it looks like we had a connection issue, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get that gameplay back on up there.
They're on. Yeah, on the back end, Whimsic has requested a restart because of the mobile connection issues. Okay. So they are getting together. They're going to share a new code, and we're going to restart our main event, our finals.
Gotcha.
So They are getting themselves together. Whimsic will be sharing a code, or Squeaky will be sharing a code with Roy, and things will be getting up and running here very momentarily. And hopefully, we will not have the connection issues that we had. Whimsic had requested it, and Roy agreed to it. So we are doing a total restart. No cubes had been lost yet. Nothing had been gained. So they didn't see any harm or foul in it. And that just goes to the integrity of our Marvel Snap community. They are great. They agree to things like this. They know and they appreciate each other. He knows he's having connection issues, and he's going to play off his mobile device to avoid the connection issues. So that is fantastic. I applaud both competitors. I applaud Roy for giving him the opportunity not to deal with the connection issues. So it's going to be a fantastic final, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we've
Parry,
seen
what do you
both of
think?
their decks now. We obviously know what Squeaky's playing. We can pretty much infer what we're going to be seeing from the other competitor as well, with the pretty similar style list on your Kitty, Athena, small ball package there. So what do we think about this matchup? I think if you're Squeaky, you want to definitely be throwing priority as much as possible to use your Shadow King to counter the Scalers and Athena and Angela. You want to use your big power cards like Gladiator and your toxic cards like Typhoid Mary towards the end, and just have that big burst of power on the final turn. I don't know if there's going to be anything that can counter that.
Well, the thing is, all these small ball cards are going to be affected by the
Yes.
Man-Thing, right? Man-Thing is going to be able to hit all these
Oh.
small ball cards. So, unfortunately, that's something, unless if he doesn't have a Luke Cage in here or something, it's going to
You can
be
see that
very
Roy does
effective.
indeed have the Luke Cage in his opening hand here, so that's going to change the entire makeup of this finals, having that direct counter to those toxic cards like US Agent, Hazmat, and Man-Thing, allowing Roy to play with a bit more confidence after we see those toxic cards come down.
Holding on to that's going to be important too.
And there we go.
Absolutely.
Yeah, knowing when to play it, because I'm pretty sure that Squeaky has Enchantress, does he not?
Correct.
So knowing when to play your Luke Cage will be
Absolutely, and we saw the
very
Sakaar
important.
here pulling down Squeaky, Shang-Chi, and the Gladiator. I'm sorry, the Juggernaut for Roy coming down from the Sakaar as well. So big surprise cards revealed early to no effect because of Sakaar. And that is enough for Squeaky to dip on out of here.
Yeah.
That Shang-Chi, a big piece of the puzzle. Very nice split on the Shang-Chi, by the way. Beautiful gold with the white crackle. And the Mr. Fantastic was from the hub, it would appear.
Yep. 100% that is the case. That Luke Cage, again, in the opening hand here. Let's see if Roy takes on the strategies that we've also been preaching very heavily, which is if you play that cage, you better snap on that turn.
Make them pay for it. That intel is
Right.
extremely valuable. You can't just be giving that away for one cube. Don't play this out on curve here. You want to probably drop this Nocturne, I would think. And that's exactly what Roy is looking to do. Very solid curve here with the Gwenpool and the Vision. And of course, the Super Flow letting you play out early. Squeaky dropping that Gladiator now, getting rid of the Captain Marvel. Poor Carol has been Gladiator fodder
Man.
all night, it seems.
Fodder.
She has been blasted more times than we can count, and
And we see
it's
the
just the way
Savage
it
Land
goes.
revealing here, taking up that precious board space.
Oh!
Squeaky getting some massive value with the Man-Thing, shrinking that by all that power down to 0. And the Superflow disappears due to Los Diablos. Gwenpool had some solid distribution of her hits there as well. So big turn 4 here. Squeaky
Ooh.
snapping, feeling very confident after seeing that Man-Thing come down, not knowing about Roy's Luke Cage yet, potentially.
This is a scary moment because we could end up seeing
Yeah.
2 snaps. We could see an 8-cube game in round 1 because It is a full-on counter resting in the hand of Roy. And potentially priority going to Squeaky. Let's see how it drops. There's the Sarah in the center. That's going to be 11-6. No, sorry. 10-6 because of Typhoid Mary. It's a advantage to Roy. And Copycat takes on the Shang-Chi.
Huge.
Look at this combo right here.
Turn.
And Roy still has the ability to snap. Does he actually do it, though? That would put him in at 8 cubes, and he does. It's going to be a round 2 8-cuber to get us going, y'all. Here in the finals.
Wow.
This is absolutely huge. What a top
There
deck. And
it
here we go,
goes.
guest.
Copycat takes out the big old Typhoid Mary on the
Okay.
left-hand side, reducing everybody on down. Here we go with a Luke Cage for support. On top of it, the Shadow King's going to undo a bit over there. Here comes the Hazmat, who's doing nothing. As then on top, you've got a double Luke Cage game. And when all is said and done, ladies and gentlemen, that is an 8-cube casserole. And Squeaky's hanging on by 1 measly cube.
Wow.
Top deck on the Copycat, taking the Shang-Chi.
Man.
Incredible value to be able to get that on the final turn. Of course, exactly what we've been talking about all tournament there. Paying for that knowledge of the Luke Cage. Huge value for Roy by not playing that Luke Cage out early and saving it till you can get the max possible value from it. Incredible.
Jeez. An 8-cube round 2 in the finals of the King's Clash. Squeaky has 1 cube. He's got a hell of a hill
Done
to
before,
climb.
but he definitely has a steep hill to climb, as you
Oh,
said,
man.
King. Sakar wasting the Enchantress there. So the counter to the counter is now been played early. The Luke Cage will get to roam free here as the Gladiator comes down. Vision, finally. Gladiator has met his match in the Vision. Some good value there for Roy. The Copycat stealing the Hazmat. Wow. A lot going down here in this final game. Squeaky not looking too hot right now. Dropping the Typhoid Mary mid here. Gwenpool coming down for Roy. Boosting up the Juggernaut twice and the Nocturne once. Turn 5 here, guest. This is big.
This is a big combination of events right now, y'all. Especially watching that Gladiator pull Vision was probably the final nail. Let's watch as US Agent drops on down to hit that Gwenpool, and Luke Cage undoes some of the damage happening on the board from Typhoid Mary. Everybody gets a boost over in Weir Island. That's going to be an 8-power floatable Nocturne with 8 energy to work on this turn.
I don't see any conceivable way that Squeaky wins this, guest. 8 energy final turn. Crimson Cosmos being such a disruptive force for Squeaky. The Juggernaut here. How can he possibly pull this off? All hope seems lost, King.
This is really tough. This is
Yeah.
really, really tough. Here on the final turn, you've got the Juggernaut in hand. You're throwing 19 power into the Crimson Cosmos as well, because you could play that Jeff down in there. They tried to play the Copycat and then realized they were restricted. But then when worst comes to shove, you've got Captain Marvel that can move too. Nocturne's going to flip over a Mojo World on top of it. So no matter what, it doesn't matter. Mojo World's going to take that win with 3 cards in the lane as Thena reveals in the center. Man-Thing's trying his best to reduce it, but it's not going to be enough. And that, ladies and gentlemen, via the magic of Luke Cage, means Roy has won the King's Clash number 3.
Absolutely.
Congratulations goes to Roy.
Absolutely
Wow.
dominating performance there in the finals by Roy. Excellent snap management. Waiting again, that 8-cube game was huge. And then just an unfortunate series of events there for Squeaky in that final game. Gladiator getting the free vision out there. Sakar pulling the Enchantress down. The one chance to counter the Luke Cage. Gone with your final cube. No hope left, no retreating left. And Roy comes out on top.
Man.
So now it's up to Roy. He gets to decide, will he take the Double Down Challenge and battle me for $100? Or will he take his $50 and go? I am going to type to Roy here in the chat to see what his answer is.
If I'm Roy, I'm on cloud 9 right now. I just had an epic 10 cube victory in the finals. My deck feels strong. I think I could take down this chump King of Canada and win some extra money from him if I'm Roy, but we'll have to see what he says. I don't want to be spending the man's money.
This is a tough call because I know for Roy as well, Roy is way across the pond. It is 3:30 in the morning right now where Roy is. So the choice has to come to be, if he thinks at this hour of the morning, if he can go one more game, he might be able to double his winnings. But at the same time, $50 is $50 and sleep. So this is a really risky decision because, I mean, he's been competing. He's been pushing. He's been trying to move forward. And now he's got to make the final choice here of, is it worth it to take on, does he take on the King of Canada? So we're looking at the back, on the back end right now, looking to see if Roy is going to move forward or if this is the ultimate end here for King's Clash 3. He's making the decision. He has all the information in front of him with the double down. Once again, for our audience, if they can take down the King of Canada, they win double the amount. But if they opt to walk away right now, they'll walk away with their current earnings. If they walk away with their current earnings, it's $50 and congratulations, because no matter what, you have earned the crown for the King's Clash 3. But if you think you can dethrone the king, you get a little extra chip on your shoulder and an extra $50 chip in your pocket. So we're going to get this set up here in the background. Stick around, folks. We'll be back in just a brief moment as we get our final decisions over from Roy and the King of Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we have our answer. King, would you like to reveal the results?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to say that Roy is taking his winnings and going to sleep. It is late for him. He does not want to take on the Double Down Challenge. He says he cannot risk his winnings of $50. So it is understandable. Some people don't gamble, and that's commendable. He still is our King's Clash 3 champion. So, Roy, you did a fantastic job. Congratulations on winning the King's Clash 3. And unfortunately, there will be no challenge. So, the Double Down is not happening at King's Clash 3. But we'll see what happens at King's Clash 4. Because we know we're going to have to do this all again. It was a blast. I want to thank you, Parry. I want to thank you, guests, for coming on out. I want to thank our mods. I want to thank everyone that has been involved here today making the King's Clash happen. We couldn't do it without all of you. So, Parry, guest, I would love for you guys to close out the show. The people know who I am. Let them know who you are and where we can see you on a daily basis.
Thank you again for having me, King. This was my first King's Clash, and I had an absolute blast. It's always a pleasure getting to commentate with guests as well, my new partner in crime here, it would seem, in the casting side of things. You guys can follow me, Parry Manilow, across all platforms. I'm trying to push more on YouTube now that I have hit Twitch Partner. So my new goal is getting monetized on YouTube. So if you want to follow me there, weekly videos featuring decks featured on Snap Judgment's podcast, Shout outs to Glazer as well. And Monday Night Bingo, Marble Snap Bingo, season finale this Monday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern. I will be giving away multiple season passes for the Young Avengers season, as well as a bunch of other giveaways as well. So if you want to see some bingo action, Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/Parry Manilow is the place to be. Thanks again for having me, King.
And for
Not a
those
problem.
who
Thank
do
you.
not know, my name is Guest, also known as ItsGuestGaming, and you can find me D all of the above. You can find me anywhere and everywhere under the name ItsGuestGaming, Twitch, YouTube, X, you name it, Discord. You can find me there. Look, we are getting ready for a lot of excitement here on this channel. There are some big things happening on here in the background. The biggest one we're working on right now, we are trying to amplify the awesomeness that is the signature epic sax party. We have some new effects that are being installed into the computer to make those moments even more exciting for some of our loyal viewers, like King of Canada's daughter Nori. We will be showcasing those in the very near future as we prepare for SnapCon in Tampa, Florida. We have a huge event happening. Thank you, Felicity, for once again holding SnapCon in Tampa, Florida. If you're interested, go ahead and contact me directly. Any of us, actually, we can all direct you in the right direction, because SnapCon is an amazing in-person Marble Snap experience, and there may or may not be some appearances from those you may know and love over at Second Dinner. So, ladies and gentlemen,
What a tease.
I hope to see you there. I'm flying up from Brazil. I hope to see you all there. And if not, worst case scenario, come join me over on Twitch. King, thank you so much for having me once again, being a part of the King's Clash number 3. King, it's your gig. You know what? Why don't you take us out?
I would like to thank everyone once again. Want to thank our sponsors, Snap, Judgments, and Power on Gaming. It wouldn't have been possible without our sponsors. It wouldn't have been possible without you, our viewers, and our competitors. So thank you for watching. Thank you for competing. Thank you all for being here. We have had a fantastic day. King's Clash 3 is now over. Congratulations to Roy. And remember, keep on snapping and be excellent to each other. We'll see you all soon. Bye for now.